Hear me, let me know. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, we've been having technical difficulties with the sound, man, for the last 2 days. I need to know if y'all can hear me. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know. If y'all can hear me out there. Turn this up and see. Yeah, you can most definitely hear me. We in the building. What's up, y'all? Shout out to everybody that's in the building. What's up, my guys and gals, man. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen. That's how you get the likes up. As Operation Epic Fury is in full swing, guys. Trump recently said he wasn't sending troops to Iran. But now we getting reports that the Marines have placed foot on Iranian soil, guys. It says thousands of U.S. Marines headed to the Middle East. Reinforcements could follow, guys. So it's looking like this whole situation is about to take a whole dramatic turn, guys. Yeah, man, it's crazy out there, man. It is crazy. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. This is most definitely Everything News, and we most definitely here to bring you the latest in breaking when it comes to the situation in Iran, guys. You know what I'm saying? Let me halt the music. Let me halt the music. Yeah, man, because it is a lot going on. Shout out to everybody in the building. Man, make sure you double tapping that screen. That's how you hit the like button or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new, where I keep you updated on all the latest and breaking news details. You know, the things you thought you knew, as well as some of the things that you don't know. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Let's see exactly what it is that's going on.
Welcome back to Special Report. Let's take a closer look at the threat Iran's military poses to countries in the region and beyond. Since the conflict began, the regime in Tehran has launched repeated retaliatory strikes. This map shows the U.S.-Israeli strikes in Iran, these yellow dots here, and then the retaliatory Iranian action against the Gulf countries of Oman, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. These are the red squares. Now, energy infrastructure is in the crosshairs, with Iran targeting key Gulf sites, such as this attack on an oil refinery in Kuwait last week. And there are rising concerns about Iran's military capabilities outside of the Middle East. Now, Friday, Iran fired 2 missiles at the island of Diego Garcia, down here, a joint U.S. military...
Iran is most definitely not backing down, guys.
...and British military base in the Indian Ocean. It lies about 2,500 miles away from Iranian territory. Neither missile hit. The attack was Iran's first operational use of intermediate range ballistic missiles. The ability to fire them could threaten European cities, such as Paris or London. Just over 2 weeks ago, Iran's foreign minister claimed his country had intentionally limited the range of its missiles below that distance.
We have capability to produce missiles. But
this is the Iranian foreign minister right here, guys, you know, basically saying that they missiles won't make it to the U.S., but other people said that he is a liar, guys. Make sure y'all double tap that screen. If you're on a mobile device, that's how you hit the like button, or click those 3 dots in the right-hand corner, hit that thumbs up. Type in the chat. Let me know that y'all can hear me down there. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Intentionally limited ourselves to below 2,000 kilometers of range, because we don't want to be felt as a threat by anybody else in the world.
Now, one of President Trump's stated goals of Operation Epic Fury is to destroy Iran's ballistic missile arsenal and production capability. As the president's Friday deadline to reopen the Strait of Hormuz approaches, thousands of U.S. Marines are expected to arrive in the Middle East that same day. You can see all of the U.S. assets, military assets, already in the region. As we reported earlier, the commander of the 82nd Airborne Division has been ordered to deploy to the Middle East.
The U.S. is most definitely possibly finna put troops on the ground in Iran, guys, even though Trump said that we were not. How do y'all feel about that?
Possible land operations. And there is speculation that the U.S. could or would use ground forces for missions inside Iran, or possibly to take Karg Island, right here. Now, Karg Island is a 5-mile strip of land in the Persian Gulf. It holds Iran's most important oil facility, an export terminal that handles 90% of the country's crude. As Iran continues to export oil and fund its military, the Trump administration is reportedly considering an operation to seize that island. Such a move would carry risks for American forces. If they had to travel through the Strait of Hormuz, they would well be within range of Iranian missiles and drones. Another point of contention in the strait is Abu Musa and the Greater Tomb and Lesser Tomb. These are islands, the islands controlled by Iran, but claimed by the UAE, the Emirates. They've long been a source of dispute between the two countries. They straddle, as you can see here, the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, offering significant strategic value near the world's most critical energy choke point. But first, breaking tonight, President Trump insists the U.S. and Iran are talking about ending their conflict.
Right? So Trump reported that one day he said we won, right? The next day he said we in negotiations. If we won, why do we need negotiations? Then on top of that, the Iranian leader says that Trump is a liar. Basically, the U.S. is negotiating with itself. We'll get to that in a second, but here's a small briefing on what took place with that.
He says he has received a significant gift from Iran related to the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, Iran's parliament speaker is still denying talks with the U.S., calling it fake news and vowing complete victory in the conflict. Senior national correspondent Rich Edson starts us off tonight live from the North Lawn of the White House. Good evening, Rich.
Good evening, Brett. The United States has sent Iran a 15-point peace plan, much of it dealing with refusing to allow Iran to enrich uranium on their territory, dismantling much of their capability to do that. Also, its support for proxies in the region. Though it's unclear if the Iranians will agree to that. The administration has not commented on that plan, much of it being reported in Israeli media right now. But President Trump says when it comes to these discussions with Iran, at least the U.S. is finally talking to the right people.
I think this thing's going to be settled very soon.
President Trump says Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are negotiating with Iranian leaders to end the nearly 4-week conflict.
They're talking to us, and they're talking sense. And remember...
You hear Trump say they're talking to us and they're talking sense. Yeah, you're going to hear something completely different in a minute, guys. Make sure you guys are double tapping that screen if you're on a mobile device. That's how you hit the like button or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. It most definitely helps out the channel, and I would most definitely appreciate it. Double tap that screen, guys. That's how you hit the like button, or you can click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, and remember, subscribe to the channel if you are new, guys.
It all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Iran has always claimed its massive nuclear program was peaceful, and that it had the right to enrich uranium to generate power, even as it had produced near weapons-grade uranium. The president says Iran has conceded that right, and that Tehran even gave the United States a, quote, very big present worth a tremendous amount of money relating to the flow of oil in the Strait of Hormuz. The details are unclear. Iran has effectively closed the strait since the U.S.-Israeli attacks against it began. Top Iranian officials have claimed there have been no negotiations with the Trump administration. The Pentagon says it will keep the pressure on Iran until this fight is finished.
We negotiate with bombs, and so we're keeping our hand on that throttle.
And possibly more pressure. Fox News has learned that the 82nd Airborne Division has been given prepare to deploy orders, and that its commander and members of headquarters staff have been ordered to deploy to the Middle East as the administration weighs whether to send troops to the region for possible land operations. The Wall Street Journal reports U.S. allies in the Gulf are inching towards joining the fight against Iran, and reporters asked President Trump today to confirm a New York Times report that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman...
That is something else that is going on. It is being speculated that Saudi Arabia might join the fight, guys.
...has been pushing him to continue this fight until the U.S. destroys Iran's hardline government.
He's a warrior. He's fighting with us, by the way. Saudi Arabia has been excellent.
These reports on the list of U.S. demands is a larger part of what the United States has demanded of Iran for not only this administration, but previous administration. To all of those points, Iran has largely rejected them. We'll see if the fighting has changed the perspective there.
With that, we bring in retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery. He served in the Navy for more than 30 years as a nuclear-trained surface warfare officer and has held many high-level positions within the United States Pacific Command and the European Command. Admiral Montgomery, it's good to have you with us, sir. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me what you see when you look at this massive deployment and movement to the region, and then also as you hear about the negotiation that President Trump is discussing right now.
Yeah, the Marines coming from Japan, which is the unit that is arriving in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Continue to double tap that screen, guys.
They make perfect sense to me. They could easily do a non-combatant evacuation operation if we needed to. You know, if one of our embassies became unstable or there was threats to American citizens abroad, perfect sense for that. I get a little more worried about seizing an island, particularly an island like Karg Island, well up the where you have to go through the Straits of Hormuz and transit all the way up the Persian Gulf. That would be a significant military event, and a lot of threats would be posed to the naval forces escorting them, and then eventually the Marines. Same with the islands in the Straits, although I will say there's an island called Larak Island.
Right, I hear somebody there. I see somebody down there said, what negotiations? Well, according to Trump, we've been negotiating with Iran, and they told us some very good things. According to Iran, that never happened, guys.
Just south of Hormuz Island on your chart there, that's the island that's used to, quote, tax or toll ships coming through there. That could be an island that certainly we should destroy the Iranian equipment on it. And then, you know, potentially, if you want to seize an island, that's one that's fairly farther away from the mainland and much more easier for us to project force into and protect.
Yeah, so it was interesting what President Trump had to say. And obviously, I know that you've said that there's no victory here without making sure that the Strait of Hormuz is an open and free passage for our ships and for, other ships from Europe and Southeast Asia who want to transit there. The president said they're giving us a gift. It's a prize, and it's very, very valuable. Your thoughts on what that might be?
I see somebody down there saying Iran made it clear yesterday there are no negotiations. Let's go.
Especially as you talk about these islands and the places that have control over this whole region of the Gulf.
You know, in the op-ed I wrote, what I said basically was, look, if your strategic end state is not regime change, and apparently it's not because we're not working to do that, then it has to be changing how the regime operates, which we're doing. We're doing a great job removing their ballistic, drone, maritime threats. But you don't change how they operate if at the end of the day they control access to the Straits of Hormuz. Because if they do, our Arab, their Arab neighbors, our Arab partners, Israel and ourselves, will continue to be threatened by the Iranians. So I think at the end of the day, this has to be, we've rolled back all their military capability and capacity, and we control access to the Straits of Hormuz. Otherwise, this will be a short-term Pyrrhic victory for the United States.
I just have about 20 seconds, but you also said that it would be a big mistake to end the military operations too soon.
Exactly. If you want to open up the Straits of Hormuz, we need to take the attacks particularly against the maritime and the mines and drones to their natural conclusion, which is about 2 weeks.
All right.
Question to the people in the chat, guys. What are your gas prices looking like right now? Remember, Trump ran on he was going to lower gas prices, this, that, and the third. I got a question for everybody out there. What are your gas prices looking like right now? Where I'm at, they're most definitely higher than they've been in a long time. What about you? Let me know.
Fascinating. I hope you can join us again, Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery. Very good to have you here, sir. Thank you, Admiral.
Let's bring in Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the United States. He joins us now from Tel Aviv. Mr. Ambassador, always good to have you on. What do you make of the news from the president that the United States and Iran
Kitty say
are in
589,
talks,
Lord.
potentially to bring an end to this conflict?
Well, if the conflict ends and if the goals of the war are achieved, John, then everybody in Israel will be very, very happy. I just got out of the bomb shelter about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it ain't looking good for gas right now, guys.
Not far from where I'm talking.
I see y'all down there. I see somebody said $5.89, $3.92, $4.79. Somebody got a low one. They said $2.28. I wonder where you at. You must be in the UK or something. I see you say euros. I'm speaking to the American people. That's where I'm at. Basically over here in the United States. I know that our gas prices have skyrocketed since this whole thing started. It was already high. It most definitely has gotten higher. But hell, it was $6.99. Lord, how much? Ooh-wee. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen, guys. If you have not hit that like button, double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button. Or you can click the 3 dots and hit that thumbs up, guys. Most definitely get the likes up. Share out the live, man. And subscribe to the channel if you are new, as we get brought up to speed on what's taking place with this Iran-USA situation, guys. Shout out to everybody in the building.
To you. And these are cluster bombs that break up into many, many bomblets and kill people. So certainly the people of Israel have been in these bomb shelters now for a month. Our children, our grandchildren will be very, very happy if this war ends, but it has to end in a way that we don't have to fight it again in another 10 or even 5 years. And according to the Israeli reports tonight, there are 5 goals here, John. One is to make sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon, as the president said during his press conference, to make sure that Iran can't build these long-range, huge ballistic missiles again, that Iran will stop supporting terror throughout the world, and that it will ship out the nearly 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium, which can make 11 atomic bombs out of that. Very, very dangerous. So the hope here in Israel that if these talks are serious and Iran is serious about making these concessions, that everyone here will be very happy.
Rag, I don't know what you talking about, my guy. I'm just going off the information that was gave to me. But most definitely pay attention to the content, Rogue, or whatever your name is, talking about as if you know whatever you want me to know. Stop micromanaging. Let me tell you something. I'm going to micromanage you and get you right up out of here. Pay attention to the content. You know what I'm saying? Speak on that. I'm not even just basically talking to you as an individual. I'm talking to the group. I don't need you to be telling me anything. Keep it up. You're going to get deported. You think I'm playing? Try me.
So as far as, this question over whether or not Iran can be trusted and whoever this is that the White House is negotiating with, what do you say about that? President Trump insisting just a few moments ago that they will make a deal while also saying that Iran cannot be trusted. So how do you wrap your mind around that?
Shout out to D-Town.
Very simple, actually. You trust them, but with supervision. They have to be every concession that Iran makes, say they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, say they're not going to make these huge ballistic missiles, and you see the size of these things on your screen there. They're huge. They're the size of a bus. You have to have inspectors go in there. And they have to be deep inspections without restrictions. And under the previous JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal of President Obama, there were tremendous restrictions on those inspections, and eventually the Iranians simply cut them off. They can't do that. So, yeah, they can make concessions, but you have to make sure those concessions can be observed and certified by international inspectors.
And those ballistic missiles that they fired at Diego Garcia over the weekend would seem to give a lie to what Iran has claimed, that it was only focusing on short-range ballistic missiles with a range of 2,000 kilometers or less. What do you make of what the president said, Mr. Ambassador, about Iran showing that the United States is talking to the right people by giving them a very...
No, sir, that's not a way of stopping the debate. I'm not here to debate with you, my guy. We ain't in no debate, and it's most definitely not weak. Just consider me Trump of this channel. You know what I'm talking about? If you mess with me, I'll deport you. You know what I'm saying? What is the word I'm looking for? Obliterate, you know what I'm saying? Your channel, guys. We'll get you right up out of here, my guy. We will take you out by any means necessary. This is not a debate. I don't debate with anyone. Debate with yourself. Debate with the people in the chat. Debate with the video. Do not debate with me, because I do not debate well. You understand? I'm not here to go back and forth with you or on anything that you know or don't know, So I suggest, that you focus on the content and don't focus on me before you get deported. Last warning.
Significant gift, which the president then put a tiny little bit of meat on the bones by saying it was related to the Strait of Hormuz. Any idea what that could be in relation to?
It could be letting tankers through. There are dozens of tankers that have been waiting to move through the Straits of Hormuz, and that is causing a spike in oil prices worldwide. Certainly Israel would like to see those prices go down as well. And if that's the gift, then it should be accepted. And if it's an expression of goodwill, which is really what this is about, that will be tested in the coming days. The president has given the Iranians till Friday to come up for a solution of Hormuz. In which case, expressions of goodwill. Let's see what happens around the negotiating table.
Yeah, Michael, a lot of what we're doing here at home is watching the market response. There's been so much volatility, especially obviously with energy and the U.S. equity market. There was sort of this wait and see happening with the stock market, but oil prices seem to be hovering in this low $90 range here at home. This is obviously the West Texas Intermediate WTI contract that we watch here. But it seems the markets perhaps are believing and anticipating that an end at least is near.
I think that is definitely the case. There was an immediate uptick in the market today, and markets generally.
Let me tell you something, sir. Ain't nobody deporting me. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm here legally. I was born and raised here. My guy. Let's not be too much jokey joke. I told you, focus on the content. Don't focus on me. You can get deported too. It'll turn into a mass deportation situation. And anybody that want to get deported, speak out of turn or speak to me. I'm going to get you right up out of here.
Including the Israeli market. And again, it is the increase of 25 or 30% in gas per gallon is very painful for working Americans. We certainly understand that here. It is, however, about half of what people anticipated. If you read the New York Times, they expected oil to go up to about $180 a barrel. It has not. Mm-hmm. So we hope it goes back down to 60. Right now, it's around 90. And again, it's not good, but it could be much worse.
Mr. Ambassador, the one big question that a lot of people have, including myself, and I'm sure you might as well, is who is the U.S. engaging with? There have been some reports that it's Mohammad Ghalibaf, who is the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament. There was a report in the Washington Post that it's Abbas Araghchi, who is the foreign minister. What's your best knowledge of who the United States might be talking to?
Well, our sources say it's neither of them. Neither of those gentlemen. Araghchi has no power. And the Speaker of the Parliament is
an 40 likes away from 100, guys. Continue to double tap that screen.
He's not a person who's going to give up so easily. We believe here that the people the president is talking to are actually in the military and the IRGC, and they're the people who are actually calling the shots in Iran now. And if so, they're not clerics, they're not theologians, and maybe they'll be more practical.
Well, Ambassador Oren, you've had obviously what is a very big day, emerging from the bomb shelter to come talk to us just now. We appreciate that. Thank you very much for joining us.
As always, Michael, as always, stay safe.
We're giving it 5 days, and then we're going to see where that takes us. And I would say at the end of this period, I think...
Do y'all see a quick resolution to this war, guys, in Iran? Or do y'all think that this may turn out like Afghanistan, where it's years and years and years of an ongoing situation? Let me know. Do y'all see a swift end to this war that's taking place in Iran? Or will it be an ongoing thing, guys? Let me know in the chat how you feel about it.
It could very well end up being a very good deal for everybody, as good as if we went all the way and just literally annihilated the place, which if we don't have to do that, that would be a good thing, not a bad thing.
So now President Trump Monday afternoon in Memphis making those comments, extending the deadline to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, delaying threatened strikes on Iranian energy plants. This comes as U.S. forces continue to keep the pressure on the regime by hitting key military targets, as well as the Israelis. Lucas Tomlinson back in Dubai for today's update from there. Lucas, hello.
Good morning, Bill. UAE's top diplomat says this country will not be blackmailed by terrorists as the rhetoric heats up against Iran as Iran fires 17 more drones and 5 ballistic missiles at this country as President Trump thinks he's getting closer to a deal with Iran.
They want peace. They've agreed they will not have a nuclear weapon, et cetera, et cetera.
Trump says they want peace. They have agreed they have no nuclear weapons. Iran said that's cap. Cap.
But we'll see. You have to get it done. But I would say there's a very good chance.
Now, after initially denying any talks were taking place with the U.S. side, Iran's foreign minister has held separate...
He tried to slip it in there on y'all real fast. He said that this guy confirmed that basically there were no talks with the U.S., guys. Yeah, he said Trump is lying. I don't know if y'all take his word as bond or him telling the truth. I just know that Trump said one thing and then the Iranian leader said another. You debate amongst yourselves whether you think he's telling the truth or not. That's completely up to y'all, but this is what's being reported.
Also with his counterparts from Egypt, Oman, Pakistan, and Turkey. The same countries reportedly attempting mediation with the U.S. and Iran to end the war. India's foreign minister has reportedly spoken with Secretary Rubio. India now using warships to escort its tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. And as negotiations appear to have taken off, U.S. jets continue picking off targets in Iran. Now more than 9,000 strikes since the start of the war more than 3 weeks ago, including Greater Tum Island. This island is one of 3 in the...
Shout out to the love. Shout out to the love. Thank you for that 5. Says Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq and has 3 times the population. From when we invaded, Iran has been preparing for this for 50 years. Nothing quick about this war. All right, so he doesn't feel like it's gonna be over anytime soon, that this could be a long going thing, considering that he says that Iran has been preparing for conflict with America for the last 50 years. Let's go.
Strait of Hormuz, claimed by the UAE, Bill, but controlled by Iran, and perhaps a destination for those Marines in the future on their way here. And aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, F-18 Super Hornets, F-35 stealth fighter jets, and EA-18 Growler electronic warfare jets with jamming pods under the wing continue to launch day and night from the flight deck. And B-52 bombers now launching strikes from RAF Fairford in Britain with a full complement of 24 2,000-pound satellite...
Can we get 30 more likes, guys? Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. These are the most latest and breaking details on the conflict in Iran that I can find. Make sure you support the channel by hitting that like button, guys. Once again, if you're on a mobile device, double tap your screen or click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel, and I will most definitely appreciate it. Let's get the likes to 100, guys. Double tap that screen if you don't mind.
Guided penetrator bombs. Those normally need to be dropped 5 to 15 miles from the target. And last night, British forces shot down 14 drones over Iraq and A-10 Warthogs, destroying Iranian-backed proxy forces in Mosul. And more C-17 transport flights have left the United States with paratroopers and likely special operations forces aboard, bound for the Middle East, Bill.
Wow, that is a lot. Lucas, thank you. Lucas Tomlinson in Dubai. Dana?
For more on this, Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary joins us now. Kevin, welcome to you. It's important we have you here today because I feel like people are looking for guidance on what's happening, on what they should be doing with their money. They're watching these very volatile markets, whether it's the U.S. equity markets, the energy markets. What do you tell people when they stop you on the street and they say, what the heck is going on? What should I do with my investments? What do you say?
What's going on is a huge opportunity to provide stability to one of the fastest growing areas on earth. You've got to remember, only a week ago, we did not have UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia talking about finally ending the status quo. This is brand new information. And why you should care about that is a lot of people don't understand what that area is. It is the gateway to Asia. So from an investor's point of view, and that's what I'm going to give you now, what institutional money is talking about today is, are we at a place now where finally, whatever the end game is, it's not about the price of oil anymore. Yes, that's important, but you've seen the volatility of oil go from 88 to 110 based on what the outcome is going to be. And here's what the outcome could be. And this is the optimistic scenario. If there's a coalition of the willing, and I'm talking about the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, coming together as part of this settlement.
Do y'all see Saudi Arabia becoming a part of this, guys? Reports say that they may join in on the efforts against Iran. Do you guys see Saudi Arabia becoming a part of what's going on? Let me know in the chat.
Cutting a deal with its, let's call it, rogue nation neighbor, Iran.
I see some yeses.
You've got to remember something about history. I'm a history buff. It's the only thing I got 100 in college. This nation, only 60 years ago, Iran, was a nation of poets, mathematicians, artists. That's why they were able to basically enrich uranium in the first place. These are smart people. They don't want to be in the place they're in. They've had bad luck with leadership. What the market smells here is a new world order where this is finally settled. And capital can go back to
Somebody
work.
said no, Saudi Arabia couldn't protect themselves from Iraq. All right, I'm just asking y'all what y'all think. Guys, we need 11 more on that like button. Man, it's not hard. We've had over 400 people in the live the whole time. We should have been at 100, past 100 likes already. Double tap that screen, guys. It helps out the channel. It's most definitely important, or I wouldn't keep asking you to do it. Double tap that screen, guys. Let's get the likes over 100. We need 9 more to hit 100 likes. Double tap the screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Shout out to everybody that's hitting that like button. I most definitely appreciate it.
You got to remember, just the UAE alone is number 3 in AI in the world. It's United States, China, United Arab Emirates. And right now, there's instability. They don't want this. They want this thing over with. They want their tourism back. They want their data centers stable. They want to keep developing AI. And we want to keep investing there. I smell something good coming, and so does the market. It'll happen in the next couple of weeks, and oil will take care of itself.
And that is the message we've gotten from the White House, right, Kevin? They've said short-term pain for longer-term gain. In fact, President Trump has said that he believes that once this is over, there will be a significant drop in prices and inflation and those energy prices. Even I've heard the White House suggest they could come down lower than they were just prior to the war. This is the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, yesterday on FBN saying almost that. Listen.
He understands all the American consumers are suffering right now. We don't like to see that happen. We're doing everything we can to offset it. But this is a few weeks of turmoil, a few weeks of disruption to solve a multi-decadal and ultimately multi-generational problem.
So if the promise is that those oil and gas prices will come down and prices in general will come down significantly after this is all over, perhaps that people can live with that, but there's no certainty that will happen. Here's gas prices right now as of today. AAA reporting.
That's why I asked y'all about y'all gas.
That is a full $1 higher than just 1 month ago. How important is it that the administration, while they believe prices will eventually come down, acknowledge the short-term pain that American consumers are living through right now?
They are living through some pain, but it is short-term, and the price of oil is based on where you think it's going to be in the future. Oil traders base them, they've got a lot of oil on the water right now they haven't sold, and they're waiting. Do I sell it now today at an inflated $90 price, or do I take the risk this thing gets settled in the next week and watch it go back to $77? That's the kind of trade that occurs. But think of the bigger context and why we should all have optimism, both domestically and internationally. There is no other commodity like oil. It's the input cost for every nation's economy. Very important. Whether you're Russia, whether you're China, whether you're an adversary, whether you're a foe or friend, it doesn't matter. Number 2, everybody has a stake in the game on this one, because Europe, they got to get this strait opened up. The Chinese need it. The Asians need it. Japan's got 73% of their oil going through it. So while there's a lot of jawboning going on from the political point of view, everybody knows the end game. Everybody knows where it has to end. Everybody has an interest. There's never been quite a situation like this. Everybody in the region wants to get Iran on board for peace and growth. And even the people there, they want the same thing. You've got 250,000 people making 60 million miserable. That's not a long-term solution either. That's just in Iran. That's why you've got to take the long view. And the long view here could be just 60 days. Remember, to affect the U.S. economy, you need oil. I'm talking about recession talk, or hurting the economy, or damaging small business. You need oil at above $93 for 3 months. We're only 1/3 into it. So everybody chillax and let this thing play out.
Libra.
There's a really big opportunity here, a huge one. And everybody gets the upside, including all our trading partners. We work this out. We're selling stuff to Saudi Arabia. We're selling it to the UAE. We're selling it to Asia. We're selling it to Japan. This is a huge opportunity. I just see it for what it is. It's history being made.
All right, Kevin, appreciate you being here. There's a lot to watch there, and the markets obviously are super sensitive to any bits of news we get from all of this, and that's why we're seeing all that volatility, which can be hard for people to stomach sometimes. Kevin, good to see you. Thank you very much.
So what happened? That's the big question right now. Let's bring in retired four-star.
So we got Trump saying Iran gave us a gift related to oil and gas. Yeah, he most definitely reported that Iran gave us a big gift, guys. Yeah, he said it yesterday. Check this out.
General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst, former Army Vice Chief of Staff, and now chairman of the Institute for the Study of War for quite some time. General's always.
So are we over there for oil and gas? Or are we over there because they pose a threat to the United States? Which one is it? I'm just saying, a lot of people said this at first, that we were only there to try to take over their resources, or that it was personal with Trump to be in Iran because they tried to eliminate him, you know, basically take him out the game. Which one do y'all think it is? Did they pose a threat, or are we trying to take their resources? But Trump says, hey, they gave us a big gift in oil and gas. Iran said, that's not so.
To have you with us. What do you think this gift that the president's referring to is?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, maybe transit through the Gulf, some of our shipping, Gulf oil. I have no idea what that is.
They said all of the above.
But, you know,
I can get jiggy with that.
Are we really? First of all, on the military side, let me just state for our audience, we are well on our way to accomplishing every single objective that the president assigned to the United States military. And the same thing is true of the IDF. Prime Minister Netanyahu assigned objectives to them. There is no doubt in our minds that we can accomplish all of those objectives, to include opening the Straits of Hormuz by force and keeping it open. And it's largely the fact that that operation is continuing, and the president is insisting on it continuing, that gives us leverage in these negotiations. And while we can't get into the details of what those negotiations are, I mean, based on what I do know in a general sense about it, while the regime likely would stay in power, they're surrendering everything that we would take away from them using military operations. And that makes me skeptical, to be frank. One, whether they will actually agree to all of that.
Hey guys, if you just now entered the building, make sure you are double tapping that screen. That's how you hit the like button, or you can click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. We on the road to 60K, 62K. We need 30 more subscribers to hit 62K. Most definitely take time to subscribe to the channel, and most definitely hit that like button as I update you on what's going on in Iran, guys.
And two, they are pathological liars and cheaters. And we are so used to that through all of these years. After all, the president tried to work a deal with them, Martha, before hostilities began, and couldn't deal with them, was fed up with them, and knew full well that they were ideologically bent and committed to returning to the Iran they have always been after the 12-day war. And the intelligence evidence of what they were doing demonstrated that clearly, and that is why hostilities began. If there really truly is a change of heart here, and they are clearly willing to give up everything that they value, while I'm skeptical of it, certainly that would be a...
And that's what I told them a while ago, Libra, that Iran said Trump is lying. There are no negotiations on the table. I most definitely pointed that out a little bit ago. Thank you for dropping that information in the chat, Libra, baby.
Monumental deal and concession on their part.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen.
It's clear that the regime wants to survive, and that is the most basic element of what they are hoping to hang on to here. I just want to play this soundbite. This is from back in February. This is the Iranian president, Pezeshkian, who is still in power. Here's what he said back in February. Watch this.
We are not seeking nuclear weapons. We have announced this over and over, that we are ready for any verification.
So he has long said, we're not seeking nuclear weapons. I interviewed him several months ago. He said the same thing to me. And I said, well, why do you enrich to 60% then? And he said, because the IAEA allows us to enrich to that level. That's why we do it. So what is different now? Obviously, their military has been decimated. How do you see it?
Well, what's different now, I think whoever it is that we're speaking to, by the way, we're not speaking directly to the Iranians yet. We're talking through mediators or third parties who are relaying messages back and forth. And what our negotiators, led by Steve Wickoff, are attempting to do is have a direct meeting face-to-face, possibly Pakistan or some other place. And that answer has not arrived yet. But listen to what you just put up there. I mean, this is the pathological lying that's been going on forever. And then they boast to Steve Witkoff that, look at, we have enough nuclear enrichment and capability to build 11 nuclear weapons, boasting to him. He's not mentioning nuclear power plants, which they have one of. Yeah, so these guys have been liars now for almost 5 decades. The president goes into this, believe me, with his eyes wide.
Which is 50 years, guys.
Open. He knows who he's dealing with here. And he certainly knows full well where our military is and what remains for them to do to accomplish their missions. They do need more time, and nobody's trying to hide that fact.
Yeah.
But a key decision was keep moving towards those objectives. We'll use that in leverage against the Iranians, certainly. And listen, you put your finger on what's truly happening to some of these leaders. They are not just want the regime to survive. They're trying to survive personally. And that has created a chaotic decision-making process, which has been difficult for us to access. And the Israelis underscore that because they have penetrated it. And they have an understanding of how chaotic that is. Lower morale among the troops down there who actually do the enforcing of their policies. And that's to be understood. Given what's happening, we've killed hundreds and hundreds of them as well, in addition to their leaders, not to speak of all the military capabilities we've taken away from them.
We got to leave it there, General. As always, we are grateful for your time, and it's wonderful to have you with us.
Let's pause it right there, guys. All right, so more on this big present that Trump says that Iran has given us, guys. Let's go here.
The United States has now sent Iran a 15-point plan to end the war in the Middle East as fighting rattles the region and economic fallout escalates. That's according to the New York Times, citing 2 officials briefed on the diplomacy who say the plan was delivered by way of Pakistan. The paper notes it is unclear how widely the plan has been shared among Iranian officials. It also remains unclear whether Iran will accept any offer or if Israel is on board with the proposal. I would say those are 2 key areas for this to work. Officials tell the Times the plan addresses Iran's ballistic missile and nuclear programs. The Wall Street Journal, meanwhile, cites officials who say the document calls on Iran to dismantle its 3 main nuclear sites and end any enrichment on Iranian soil, suspend its ballistic missile work, curb support for proxies, and fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The officials add that Iran would, in return, have nuclear-related sanctions lifted, and the U.S. would assist while monitoring the country's civilian nuclear program. The journal also reports that mediators from Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan are pushing to have a meeting arranged between U.S. and Iranian officials in the next 48 hours. But both sides remain far apart. And in a sign of that distance, shortly after the 15-point plan was submitted to Iran, the country's military mocked the attempts for peace, speaking in a pre-recorded video that aired on state.
This is what Iran said about the negotiations. Iran military mocks Trump's claim of U.S.-Iran negotiations. Have you internal conflicts reached a point where you are negotiating with yourselves? Yeah, basically saying that Trump is lying. They ain't talking to Trump. Trump is talking to himself and lying to the American people. That is what Iran is saying.
TV. An Iranian military spokesman put it like this, quote, "Have your internal conflicts reached the point where you are negotiating with yourselves?" He added, quote, "Our first and last word has been the same from day one, and it will stay that way. Someone like us will never come to terms with someone like you. Now,
wow,
not ever."
Now you see,
wow.
You say it that way, and sort of a chill goes up your spine. That's the way you do it.
However, in the Oval Office yesterday afternoon, President Trump continued to claim that negotiations were happening and that those talks involved Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Jared Kushner, and Steve Witkoff. The president was then asked about whether he could trust the people the U.S. is negotiating with, leading to this exchange.
Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them? I don't trust them.
Then why bother talking to them?
Could Trump's imagination be running wild, guys? Or is Iran just strictly lying through their teeth, guys? Which one do you think? Do you think Trump is lying to us or Iran is lying? It's up to y'all. Let me know.
They're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today.
There go the president that he's talking about, and they said that's not true either.
It was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we'd deal with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related. And it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people.
I'm reminded of the scripture. We are looking through a glass darkly. Because David Ignatius, you need to break this down for us. And one thing, the only thing I am have assurance with is the president says he's not going to trust the Iranians. That has been a pretty smart move since 1979. But David, break this down for us, because we have two things happening at once. We have the president, as the Wall Street Journal opinion page suggests, for markets, the president talking about peace. At the same time, you got Marines, the 82nd Airborne. You got a lot of people that are moving, a lot of troops that are moving toward the region. So a discordant moment here where the words aren't matching the action. So break it down for us. What's going on?
Let's take time to hit that like button, guys. Double tap that screen. If you're on a mobile device, so click the three dots, hit that thumbs up. Let's get the likes up. Keep the likes going, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the three dots in the right-hand corner. Hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel, man. This is everything I know on the conflict taking place in Iran.
On best as you can tell, are these talks of peace plans more about calming the markets and keeping oil below 100, or is the president really moving in that direction?
So, Joe, the first thing to say is that we don't know. The mismatch between different messages is characteristic of Trump, and knowing which one is the real message is part of the struggle of dealing with him. We're in what the Wall Street Journal calls this morning the fog of diplomacy. We often speak of the fog of war, but in this case, it's the diplomacy that's hard to understand. What we do know, I think, with some confidence, is that Trump administration sent a 15-point list of its proposals for a settlement to be delivered to Iran via Pakistan. There's hope that there'll be an actual meeting in Pakistan involving U.S. and Iranian negotiators on Thursday, as you mentioned earlier. The gap between the positions in the U.S. 15 points and the Iranian positions are still wide apart, but that doesn't mean that negotiations couldn't bring them together. I think the discordant part, as you mentioned, is that as this discussion by the president, emphatic call for peace, goes forward, so does a plan, it seems, to deploy the 82nd Airborne and two Marine amphibious units, many thousands of troops. What are they going to do? Are they going to seek to occupy Karg Island or other parts of Iran? If you send that many troops to the Middle East, there's obviously some plan for how they'll specifically be used. Admiral Brad Cooper, the head of CENTCOM, has rehearsed this so many times. So I think it's just a situation that Trump likes, where he wants a deal. He said that, but he thinks using military force at the ready, sending all these troops, is the best way to get to the deal. And I think the honest truth, we just have to wait a couple days and see where he is.
So, General, on the military side, tell me where you think we are. I mean, we're every day Israel wakes up and is surprised by the attacks that happened the night before, wondering how Iran continues to have the ability to strike them. I had somebody in the intel community tell me a couple days ago.
Mind mouth, do not lie on my chat. We most definitely aren't censoring anything. The only thing we censor is your cuss words, and don't be being mean to other people in the chat, because their views aren't the same as yours. Don't be calling nobody no dummies or no idiots or nothing like that because they don't agree with you. But as far as there being heavy censorship in this chat, absolutely not. Now chill out before I get you deported for lying, sir. Hey, IGT.
That hearing us going out and talking about the number of missiles and launch sites we've destroyed reminds him of the Vietnam War, where we had the body counts every night, and that just at the end of the day didn't matter. I'm wondering about, again, the ongoing asymmetric warfare.
Thank you,
where they're talking
Dominique.
about cheap drones, non-launch boats, drones, missiles, boat swarms. You can go down the list. Where we're shooting down, million or $1,000 drones with $1 million missiles. Something else that he told me a couple days ago. I just look at what's been happening with Ukraine and Russia. And I wonder if this administration didn't have so much contempt for Zelensky in Ukraine, if they might not have seen that as the biggest warning sign, not to fight the last war, but to fight the war that's actually going on right now, showing that Ukraine, even all these years later, is pushing back a huge country that thought they were going to take them over in 3 days.
Yeah, Ukraine has very effectively countered not only conventional forces, but also that asymmetric warfare that Russia uses. They even offered some advice to our Department of Defense, and the president and President Zelensky stepped forward and said, we can help you with this counter drone effort, and we turned them down. Now, we have learned a lot of lessons from them on the periphery, but this sure would have been helpful. The other thing I'd say, Joe, is there's a lot of talk about what's deploying there. And I've got a little bit of experience with these kind of units. A Marine Expeditionary Unit, a MEU, as they call it, which is 2 of them are deploying there. They provide immediate crisis response to the combatant commander, in this case, Admiral Cooper. They serve as a rapid on-call force, and they're small. I mean, we're getting energized about the fact that we're deploying forces, but both the MEU and the individual response force, the IRF, or what's called the Ready Brigade from the 82nd Airborne.
Can y'all believe that this conflict has been going on for 27 days, guys? That's crazy. Wow.
They're relatively small forces, and they can't move around a lot. They have specific missions that it's understandable why they would go in first, but this is a first effort. The 82nd deploys worldwide with that Ready Brigade deploys within 18 hours. They're wheels up out of Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty now. They conduct forcible entry. What that means is they parachute in somewhere, conducting an airborne assault to seize key terrain like an airfield or a weapons site or critical infrastructure. But they can't move around a lot, and neither can the Marine Expeditionary Unit. Once they go ashore or drop in from the sky, they are stationary. And a long time ago, I heard a comment that if you forget logistics in war, you're going to lose.
He's talking about the troops that are basically being deployed to Iran, guys. Yes, troops, American troops, are due to touch down on Iranian soil anytime now. Yeah, Trump said we wasn't sending no troops to put boots on the ground. Well, 27 days later, we got U.S. troops in Iran, boots on the ground. Pray for us all.
Now, these 2 forces may be the entry-level forces, but it indicates that there's plans for others to come in, but those others coming in will come in very, very slowly. When you're talking about the rest of the 82nd Airborne Division, still, that's a relatively small force, about 15 to 18,000 soldiers, depending on how many you bring in with the entire division. In a land that's as big as Iran, with the kind of terrain they have and the geography, even supported by a massive number of overhead aircraft and Tomahawk missiles, these 2 forces can form a lodgment, as the military calls it, but they can't do a whole lot more until more follow-on forces come in. So I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what these 2 MEUs and 1 brigade are going to do. Now, the 82nd Airborne has also deployed their command post, which indicates to me that more are going to come in. But first of all, where are you going to put them as they all pull together? Because you can't put them immediately into Iran. They don't have the logistics support to go in there. Where are they going to go? What are their missions going to be? What are the follow-on forces? Because these three forces, two MEUs and a brigade, are designed to open a fight, but not to finish one. And so we're thinking about putting a lot of forces on the ground. This is an opening gambit, and it's interesting that it's taking place while we're still bombing and conducting peace talks in Pakistan.
So David Ignatius, as the president said again yesterday, the war is basically won. We've won militarily. Now it's all just in the negotiation and a settlement deal.
But we're not negotiating. You know what I'm saying? He said, "Oh, the war is won," but it's is on negotiations. Well, you know, they say that Trump is lying about negotiating. They're not negotiating anything.
Rejects that out of hand, knowing it's got a big chip that it's playing in the Strait of Hormuz. But this morning, the New York Times front page piece above the fold says that MBS, that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, now along with the Israelis, putting pressure on President Trump to keep going with this war, that the war actually will not be won until the Iranian regime is destroyed and that a new one is put up in its place. So what is your sense of those pressures that the White House, that President Trump personally may be feeling from two of his friends, MBS and Bibi Netanyahu?
So I think those who've been in the Iranian firing line, the Israelis most obviously, the Saudis, the Emiratis, want Trump to finish the job. They don't want to be left exposed to Iranian missiles and drones indefinitely. So you can hear that from Gulf leaders very explicitly. We may have been ambivalent about whether you should go to war, but now that you've gone, now that we've been attacked again and again, we want to make sure that you finish the job. President Trump, looking at the economic costs, both to the United States directly and in terms of the financial markets, seems to be pulling back from the kind of decisive victory that some of our allies would like to see, distancing himself a little bit from Israel. If you look carefully at the 15 points that the administration is said to be delivering to Iran via Pakistan, they're not all that different from the demands that we were making in the final round of negotiations in Geneva before the war began. It's pretty much the same list. It talks about permanently dismantling the facilities at Natanz and Fordo and Isfahan. It talks about the IAEA taking control of the highly enriched uranium that Iran has buried. The U.S. would...
Yes, please do not spam my chat, guys. We understand what you say the first time. You don't have to type it and put it in the chat repetitively. Yeah, or you will be deported. Do not spam my chat.
Go in with its own troops, but the IAEA would take it over and presumably dilute it so it was no longer threatening. I noted one thing that may explain what the president was talking about with that strange comment about getting a gift from Iran in the oil and gas area. Iran released a statement in the last 2 days that I'll just read one passage from it. It's saying the Strait of Hormuz remains open and maritime traffic has not been suspended. It goes on to say that non-hostile ships are being given free passage through the strait, but it's a clear statement by Iran, to my reading, that it's prepared to negotiate the terms of reopening the strait if they're favorable to Iran. So perhaps that's what Trump was talking about, since the Strait of Hormuz is really, I think, the key issue in terms of stabilizing financial markets, the one he's got to resolve to calm this crisis down and begin to get a reduction in oil prices.
It was a fascinating statement, especially when it added the Iranians, like, don't blame us. It's the insurance companies. Blame the insurance companies. They sounded like trial lawyers. That is a bit of a different tone than this one. Our first and last word has been from the same. Someone like us will never come to terms with someone like you. Not now, not ever.
Not now, not ever.
Pretty clear.
Not now, not ever. No, someone like us will never come to terms with someone like you. They basically spoke that to Trump, guys. All right, here's a little bit more on Trump. It says Iran calls Trump claim of peace talks fake news to manipulate the markets, guys. So I told y'all, they saying Trump is lying. This is what they had to say. Let's go.
At the weekend, Donald Trump now says the US has held talks with what he called the top reasonable person in Iran and claims that Tehran wants to make a deal, allowing him to pull back for 5 days from his threatened strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure. But Iran says no such talks have taken place. 2 days ago, Mr. Trump said he would obliterate Iran's power plants unless it reopened the crucial shipping channel, the Strait of Hormuz, by midnight tonight. Well, after his comments, high oil prices fell and stock markets rebounded, prompting the leader of Iran's parliament to suggest fake news is being used to manipulate the oil market.
Oh, don't let me find out they use Trump's own words against him with this fake news. Let's go.
We'll be examining the economic impact of Mr. Trump's latest words, and we'll be asking our international editor, Jeremy Bowen, to shed light on those negotiations. But first, here's our diplomatic correspondent, James Landale, with the story of the day.
The day began with the United States threatening more of this, only not on Iran's military targets, but its civilian power stations. They'd be obliterated, Donald Trump had said, unless the Strait of Hormuz was reopened tonight. But then suddenly, as he prepared to board Air Force One, an about turn. The president put off the attack for 5 days after what he called productive conversations with Iran.
They called. I didn't call. They called. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal.
He said he didn't call. They called him and wanted to make a deal. How many of y'all believe that with the recent things that they have put out saying that none of this is true and Trump is lying through his teeth?
It'll be a good deal. And it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons.
It also potentially might involve the US and Iran sharing control of the flow of oil.
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
Well, the United States
Me and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah.
But the threat of more military action remained.
We'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
Mr. Trump said his envoys had spoken last night to a top Iranian official. He wouldn't say who, apart from denying it was the new supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. As markets opened in the US, traders seized on what they hoped was better news. The value of stocks rebounding, the price of oil falling, at least for a time. And all the while, the Strait of Hormuz remained too dangerous for most tankers to pass under the threat of Iranian attack. And Israel continued its bombardment of Tehran. The country's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying President Trump had told him a deal was possible. So Donald Trump is now talking of deals and negotiations, a potential way out of the impasse he faces. But how real and developed these talks are remains unclear. James Landau, BBC News.
That's crazy, y'all.
Let's go straight to Washington and to Gary O'Donoghue. Gary, yesterday Donald Trump was vowing no ceasefire. Today's
I don't know what's going on with this guy's face, but he looked like he might have been in the military at one point. Watch when they put him on the solo screen.
talking about the possibility of a complete and total end to hostilities. What has changed?
What is going on, my God? Goodness gracious. He looked like he lived a rough life, guys. Make sure you guys are double tapping that screen. Most definitely, we should be past 200 on that like. If you have not double tapped the screen, that's how you hit the like button if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We on the road to 62K. I think we only need like 7 more subscribers to make it there. Man, I most definitely appreciate everybody that's hitting that like button, everybody that's subscribing, you know, and everybody that's seeing whatever this guy got going on, man. I don't know what's wrong with his eyes.
Things aren't going the way he hoped and expected. I think that's what is the realization here at the White House. He urged the people of Iran, if you remember, to rise up, but there hasn't been regime change. Iran continues to be able to retaliate, even though it's significantly damaged, and it's drawn those other Arab Gulf nations into this conflict, something that Donald Trump himself said would surprise him. And of course, then you get to the Strait of Hormuz, which has delivered this huge energy shock, price shock to the whole world.
Somebody say he look lopsided. He built like Miss Trunch Bell. Okay. Ignorant comment, his eyes. Bro's melting. I don't know what's going on, guys. Hey man, prayers for him, whatever he's going through.
To American consumers with $1 on the gallon of petrol here. Rita, many American presidents before Donald Trump have realized this, and perhaps he's realizing this too. These wars are easy to start, but they can be very hard to finish.
Gary, thank you. Gary O'Donoghue in Washington, while Jeremy Bowen, our international editor, is here. And Jeremy, what on earth are we to make of these claims and counterclaims about US?
Johnny would make me
Yeah,
nervous.
two versions of the truth, perhaps. One coming from Tehran, one coming from Washington, D.C. Massive lack of trust as well. Don't forget, during previous rounds of negotiations, the Americans and the Israelis attacked Iran not once but twice, including on the 28th of February this year. Look, if there were talks, the agenda would have to be massive and complicated. What about the enriched uranium that could be used to make a nuclear weapon? What about the alliances Iran has around the region, like Hezbollah in Lebanon? And what about the Strait of Hormuz, the most potent weapon that Iran seems to have discovered, in fact, knew about all along? And plenty of people ask, why didn't President Trump know about it? The Iranians, if it is that kind of real negotiation at some point, will make their own demands. They'll want to retain control in some way of the Strait of Hormuz, maybe lift sanctions, maybe get some assurance that the Israelis are not going to attack them. So I think that what we're seeing right now is it perhaps Trump preparing a declaration of victory? Gulf states don't want to be left with a mess in the region. Or is it simply an attempt to reassure the markets? That seems to be one of the most credible things, he just grabbed at something to try to reassure them. The point is, though, to have victory in war, you need a defined objective, you need a clear exit strategy, you need a plan for what's coming next. And the evidence is that he had none of those things, whereas Iran has had this plan to make this into a war
50 years.
of attrition. And what President Trump has done has dismissed all those worries and doubts that previous American presidents have had about attacking Iran because of all the difficulties it would cause. And I think he's discovering that that's why they chose not to destroy the Islamic Republic, but try to contain it instead.
Jeremy, thank you very much. Jeremy Bowen there, our international editor. Well, Sir Keir Starmer has told MPs that Britain must be prepared for the war to continue for some time and that people shouldn't fall into the false comfort of thinking there would be a quick and early end to this. The Prime Minister also insisted the UK would not be dragged into the war.
They said it would not be a quick end to this, which means this war could go on for a long time, guys.
Downing Street said the Chancellor will tomorrow set out steps to crack down on companies seeking to raise prices and profit from the war. Here's our political editor, Chris Mason.
Week 4 of this war and the implications, consequences, questions tumble towards us, tumble towards the Prime Minister. Prices at the pumps now, the potential for costs to spiral in the future. The key question, how long is this all going to go on?
Do you think that households and businesses in our country should be planning for a disruption that actually lasts for months, or do you think that actually this can be concluded in days and weeks, as President Trump seems to suggest?
Hard to answer that question if I'm honest about it, but we've got to plan on the basis that it could go on for some time.
And what about government help with bills, given how expensive universal support was after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine?
Are you considering targeted support this time rather than universal offer, given just how expensive it was last time?
I'm acutely aware of how much it cost last time round, and I'm acutely aware of the state of the public finances.
People want answers now, Prime Minister.
Yeah, we are looking at what support we can put in, and as soon as we're able to answer the question what exactly that looks like, we will make it clear.
The British warship HMS Dragon has now arrived in the Mediterranean, with critics saying it's embarrassing more kit wasn't sent to the region sooner.
Are you embarrassed? We pre-deployed quite a lot of assets to the region. Just to reassure you, radar systems were pre-deployed, counter-drone systems were redeployed, F-35 jets were deployed in greater number than were already there.
This smacks of a lack of war-fighting mentality that reaches right across the government, which is what we address in this paper about war-fighting readiness, where we are not at. Smacks of
So basically, y'all are getting an insight into how people across seas are viewing this war that America has going on with Iran, and basically how it could affect them. Make sure you are double tapping that screen, guys. Continue to hit that like button. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner, guys. Hit that thumbs up. Let's get the likes up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you are new. We on the road to 62K. We need every subscriber we can get, so subscribe, guys.
Well, this smacks of the fact that for years there was underinvestment by the last government and the stripping out and hollowing out of our armed forces.
What more can the government do to support households, Mr. Bailey?
Later, the Governor of the Bank of England joined senior ministers for a meeting of the government's contingencies committee, COBRA. The economic consequences for us all at the top of the agenda. There was plenty to discuss. Chris Mason, BBC News at Westminster.
Well, as you heard earlier, there were huge financial swings after Donald Trump's comments about talks, with markets reversing earlier moves. Faisal Islam is with me. Faisal, it is so volatile, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Hold on. Let's stop there right there, man, because we also have breaking news. There are now being strikes made on Tel Aviv, Tel Aviv, however you say it. I think it's Tel Aviv, though. You know, yeah, man. It says Iran launches new attacks on Tel Aviv, guys. Let's go.
Sirens just went off moments ago. Hi, Trey.
Yeah, Todd, Carly, good morning. Right now in the distance, we can hear a number of small explosions, an indication that the Iranians launched yet another missile with a cluster munition on...
And yeah, this guy's braver than me, man. He got on a military helmet, you know, a vest, everything. Ain't no way I'll be over there putting my life in danger to report nothing. That's why I report the news from the comfort of my home. I let them go out and be the brave guys and strap on helmets and potentially get blew up and all of that. No. They would have said, hey, go over there and report. No.
Top, raining those bomblets down on the population below. This was the second attack in just 2 minutes that took place, one targeting the northern city of Haifa and the other central Israel. As Operation Epic Fury grinds on, there is now talk of diplomacy across the Middle East. We understand that Egypt, Pakistan, and Turkey are reportedly taking the lead in mediating as Gulf countries continue to come under Iranian attack. Tuesday, President Trump said Iran had given him a present worth a tremendous amount of money. He didn't elaborate on what the gift was, but said it's a sign they're dealing with the right people. As for the framework of the current negotiations, here's what President Trump had to say.
It all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, you know, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
Which
Iranian
Iran
officials
said
are
that's a
reportedly
lie.
worried that the United States is buying time before more intense operations. But the president has indicated Vice President J.D. Vance would participate in the talks aimed at ending the war. U.S. and Israeli strikes have continued over the past 24 hours, putting new pressure on the Iranian regime. And overnight, Iran launched more barrages of ballistic missiles toward Israel. One of the cluster munitions landed in a religious community just outside of Tel Aviv, wounding at least 9 people.
The Iranians plan to launch hundreds of missiles towards Israel on the first day of the operation. They fired fewer than 100 on the first day and half that amount on the second day. We disrupted these intentions and continue to disrupt them. The number of launches decreased very quickly. The average is roughly about 10 missiles per day. The regime tries to concentrate its efforts every few days and launch more broadly, mainly towards population centers.
Now, Todd, Carly, we understand there are a number of impacts from that last Iranian attack against Israel. First responders are now rushing to the scenes to determine if anyone was injured. Guys?
Yeah, the war clearly continues as the potential for talks is being raised for the first time. Trey, live for us in Tel Aviv. Trey Yanks, we thank you so much. Let's bring in former Army Black Hawk helicopter pilot, battalion commander, and international military strategist, Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Do you believe that Iran has been weakened enough by this military campaign that we have reached maximum leverage so that we can enter into these talks?
Yeah, good morning, Carly. I think they've been significantly weakened and to the point where they could want to enter these talks out of self-preservation because they know based on our current actions and, of course, how Israel has operated since October 7th massacre, then that we're going to continue with negotiations. We're going to continue to talk to them the best we can. However, what we're not going to do is cease operations or go into ceasefires in order to allow them to rebuild or take a break. I certainly hope that they take this opportunity to reach a meaningful deal potentially that could end the hostilities. But Iran is typically not a very trustworthy player in this arena, so we'll see how.
So all I keep on hearing is basically the American people who are reporting on this, as far as the politicians or whatever, keep on saying that Iran is not trustworthy, which means they are liars, which means they could be in negotiations with Trump and then come on national television and lie about it and say, no, we're not. So I don't know how to take it, but that's what's being said.
Plays out, but they have lost a significant amount of military capability and leverage themselves while we just continue to build our own.
Yeah, so to that point, on the one hand, we're talking about diplomacy, but on the other, the Pentagon has deployed between 2,000 and 3,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne that are expected to arrive in the region on Friday, which coincides with President Trump's deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. If that doesn't happen, if the strait does not open on Friday, what would their mission be?
Difficult to tell with the formation of that size. It's not as many people as a lot of folks would think when it comes to a military formation that can hold a lot of ground. With them, I can see something along the lines of a use for them on controlling some area on Kharg Island, or some of the smaller islands in the Strait of Hormuz that are strategically located to allow ships to flow through there, but prevent land use for things like drones, smaller missiles, or other things that might interdict oil shipping and ships that try to go through there and increase their risk. So I don't see them doing something rather large. It's not that many people, but the 82nd is extraordinarily capable and flexible with doing a number of missions.
But yeah, would one of those missions be boots on the ground?
I certainly hope not, but commanders like to have options, and they don't want to take something off the table if they don't have to. So having them in the area could mean they're just looking for another point of leverage to be able to say, hey, we're ready to move if we have to. But if necessary, I think their mission would be very limited in scope and in time.
Yeah, that's a great point. We saw the troop build up in the lead up to the strikes beginning, and this could be along the similar vein of that, and adding more troops and saying this is what we could do. Now let's come to the negotiating table. The president also said yesterday that Iran gave the U.S. a present worth a tremendous amount of money having to do with oil in the Strait of Hormuz. Do you have any thoughts on what he could have been referring to?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, and I'm sure it's why he's holding it close. But it could be as simple as that we're opening it back up to I guess what they describe as hostile nations again, be able to move their oil through there. But it could just be something that none of us are anticipating, that they're trying to use to regain some of their own leverage against us in these negotiations also, and put something on the table right away. So it's hard to tell right now what exactly that could be. There's a number of.
It was quite the soundbite, a tremendous amount of money and a present that was sent on Monday and arrived on Tuesday. Finally, I think another question that needs to be asked is what the ultimate goal would be. If we do enter in these diplomatic talks, would the most positive outcome be for the Iranian people to still rise up for total regime control? Or are we working with a group of people now where not just in the immediate days, but for years to come, the United States could work with?
I think both of those are possibilities, and I think in the best case outcomes, I don't want to be naive and think that the Iranian people rising up against their own dictators would be bloodless or less ugly than other things. It wouldn't be pleasant, but it could be necessary and the only way forward to actually solve this problem. I could see someone coming out of the ranks of something like the IRGC or a government that has been there quietly biding their time and waiting for the day to come forward when they could actually be that person who can make the difference and just be a good neighbor. Doesn't have to be a democracy, just stop being a hostile nation to everybody, frankly, around the world.
A Middle East that could forever be changed as mediators from Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan are pushing for meetings to be arranged between the United States and Iran within the next 48 hours. We will certainly be watching. Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb, we thank you so much for your time.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm
Brian Kilmeade.
So remember a little bit earlier, I told y'all about the U.S. troops that's supposed to be touching down in Iran, guys. It's saying that there are over 1,000 troops that are currently, being deployed to Iran, guys.
Learned that around 1,000 U.S. Army paratroops are headed to the Middle East. Now, sources are telling CNN soldiers with the Army's 82nd Airborne Division are expected to deploy in the next few days. Now, here's another question. Why are troops being deployed when President Trump insists talks with Iran are progressing? Now, CNN's chief national security analyst and anchor, Jim Sciutto, is actually on the ground in Tel Aviv. He joins me live. First, can you tell me a little bit about this deployment of troops that we're hearing about?
Yeah. Well, Audie, whatever the president ultimately decides about a ground operation in Iran, all the pieces are now in the region to carry one out. And it's not just the 1,000 paratroopers.
Now, why do we have troops on the ground when Trump said we wasn't putting any American boots on Iranian soil? Somebody let me know down there.
You have Marines deployed to the region, and then all the forces, the air transport, etc., that one would require to put troops on the ground, whether that be, you've heard the discussion of Karg Island, which is so central to Iran's energy industry, or perhaps along the shores of the Strait of Hormuz to secure the Strait of Hormuz. We don't know, and ultimately it's up to the president, but at least the pieces are in place. So we're left in a situation not unlike where we were 4 weeks ago before the start of the war, where you have two tracks.
I would like to say that you are lying when you said he never said no troops, Derry. He most definitely said that he didn't see himself putting any American boots on the ground in Iran. I covered it over here in one of my previous videos where he said it. He most definitely said it, my guy.
At the same time, you have diplomatic discussions with Iran, or at least now laying the groundwork for those discussions, with an enormous military buildup. We saw what happened 4 weeks ago. The president chose the military option, saying that the talks weren't going anywhere. So we're left in that situation again. Will the president decide that the talks aren't going anywhere in his view and then deploy further military action up to and including ground forces? We don't know. I will tell you from here in Israel, there's a great deal of skepticism as to whether there is actual potential.
At first, he said he wasn't putting any American troops on Iranian soil. Then later on, after that, he said all options are open. Come on, Larry. You're not playing with a guy who doesn't know what's going on. I most definitely covered it when he said what he said. Let's stop the cap, my guy.
Potential for real peace negotiations right now.
Well, I'm joined now by Malcolm Nance. He's a retired US Naval Intelligence officer and a national security expert. Good to have you this morning, Malcolm. Thank you. Two sources tell CNN that approximately 1,000 US soldiers now preparing to deploy to be available for Iran operations, as it were. And you've listed some of the units and hardware that make up this force, saying, quote, this force is not...
Yeah, he said all options are open after he said we wasn't putting American troops on Iranian soil. Come on, let's not bypass what he said. What are y'all doing? I know that y'all like to make excuses, but we ain't making none over here. We are unbiased. We most definitely gonna tell it like it TI is. Understand the hell that.
Leverage, this is a commitment to take action. What action do you expect at this point?
Well, we're talking about the 82nd Airborne Brigade sending out 1,000 troops out there. They are paratroopers, or they're soldiers who are going to be hella lifted into whatever their objective are. The issue that's not being talked about is the 500 or 100 or more special operations soldiers that are being stationed in Jordan and Israel right now, who are an elite assault force. So whatever the Trump administration has planned, it is offensive. It is not defensive at all. The 82nd Airborne is a backup force for the spear tip units like Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 that objectives like Karg Island are just too small for that. That's something that one special forces unit can do, but they're bringing in Rangers, they're bringing in others. Even taking the islands in the Strait of Hormuz, Larak, Hormuz, Kishem, Hangam, Lesser Toom, Greater Toom, Abu Musa, Kish, and Siri, that is still a massive force for this. So the question is, do they have multiple intent here? Take the Strait of Hormuz Islands, take Karg Island, and then possibly a land operation somewhere in Iran. That's what this spells out. But it's really up to the White House to make clear why they need this force there if they're in end state negotiations.
Can you just game plan that for me slightly more? I'm really interested to learn from you very specifically what these forces that you describe are equipped to do.
Right. Well, first, let's look at the Marines in the Tripoli Amphibious Readiness Group. That's about 2,500 Marines. Their job is to do a forced landing on hostile shores or islands. A group like that could be used against, Bandar-e Jas, which is a large secondary oil pumping facility for Iran on the Indian Ocean, or to hazard their warships to go through the Strait of Hormuz and launch from ships and do an amphibious landing on like Larak or Kishem Island. That danger. They have helicopters they can do it with. They have landing craft they can do it with. But it's easily mined and it's easy, narrow channel to attack with anti-ship missiles, even if you have heavy air defenses. They could helicopter over the Musandam Peninsula and land on islands like Abu Musa, which belong to the United Arab Emirates, Lesser Toom, Greater Toom. They've been doing an extensive bombing campaign on these islands this week by the U.S. government. But one thing they didn't do was they did not bomb the airstrips, which means that they look at like they're going to use that for future operations. Kishem Island, the one that's shaped like a shark, is much more extensive. It's 53 villages. It requires water from desalinization. That's a massive target. That's something that the Marines themselves may make an initial landing, but you could paradrop the 82nd Airborne troops there. But that's fraught with danger because you have to have absolute aerial control. You have to be sure there's no surface-to-air missiles, and you could lose or injure people just jumping out of the airplanes onto that big island. But Delta Force, the Rangers, they could easily take Karg Island in a matter of an hour. It's a question of keeping it without getting bombarded day and night.
I wonder whether you believe that the deployment of these troops has been part of the long-term planning and strategy, or whether this is a US administration, I don't want to say making things up as they go along, because I have no idea, what the thinking has been behind the scenes. But, I wonder whether this is sort of layering on sort of new opportunities that Pete Hegseth wants to be able to provide for Donald Trump at this point.
I'll speak frankly as a former intelligence professional. They're winging this. Every military activity that we see does not show phased planning that was part of a strategic campaign in the pre-war, where the Pentagon thought about it, prepared it, and had it ready. None of these forces were ready, especially the Marines. I mean, they seem to be an afterthought. I think in response to Donald Trump's rhetoric about let's take the Strait of Hormuz, you are now seeing the system spool up to take the Strait of Hormuz. There's no taking it. So long as Iran can deny the sea, which they could do with an anti-ship missile launched 300 miles away, this is going to be a very hard nut to crack. Worse, Becky, once the fighting starts, no one is moving any ships. There's no chance anyone's going to insure a vessel that's going to go when there is massive fighting in the Strait of Hormuz.
I've got reporting that says that key regional partner Saudi Arabia certainly wants Iran's missile capabilities sort of closed out, degraded before.
We hear Saudi Arabia again. It is very it is very likely that they may take part in what's going on, guys. I keep hearing Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia.
Or this war ends. So they've said to me very specifically they don't want civilian infrastructure targeted. The Wall Street Journal reports that Gulf allies, including the UAE, where I am, are considering joining this fight because they've been so relentlessly targeted in Iran's retaliation strikes or attacks. I mean, they call them reckless and unprovoked. There is no suggestion as of yet that the UAE or the Saudis are prepared to jump in offensively in this fight and join, the US here. But I wonder what a coalition would look like and achieve, and just how much degradation do you believe of Iran's military capabilities we've seen to date to ensure long-term stability in the region where I am?
Well, a coalition is not hard to put together. I mean, the GCC already has, its informal networks for the military. The UAE would align with the United States in recovering an island that was stolen from them, Abu Musa Island. The Iranians just summarily took that some 20 or some odd years ago. The Saudis, on the other hand, have a big armed force, but the key component of that is using their air power to provide cover and defense for U.S. forces and other forces in the country, that are coming along and seizing these literal islands. As far as degrading Iran's ballistic missile capability, let's all be realistic here, okay? You cannot just say it and it's done. If it's going to be a question of degrading it and before we declare the war over, we're going to be here a year because those missiles can be hidden, they can be moved around.
Paul, would you like to be deported, Paul? Stop spamming the chat with "Do you suffer from Trump Down syndrome?" Stop putting that in my chat. You done typed about 60 times. Let's slow down, my guy. Find you something else to type about.
Gotten into the large number of short-range ballistic missiles that they have, and we could hunt them for some time to come, just as we did in Iraq. But now you're talking an extended period of strife. The Gulf,
Thank you, Bobby.
not opening, and quite possibly even worse, bringing the Houthi rebels into this, and they open this war to and attack Saudi Arabia from the west and close the Bab el-Mandab waterway. It's a nightmare.
All right, so that was a little bit on 1,000 troops that's being expected to land on Iranian soil. Here's a little bit more, guys.
Multiplied tonight, with Donald Trump talking up negotiations with Tehran amid reports that the Pentagon is about to send thousands of US troops to Iran. Mr. Trump, speaking in the Oval Office, didn't address troop deployment, but he claimed that talks are happening right now and that Iran had agreed to abandon its nuclear program. The Iranians yesterday denied that any such talks were taking place. Hostilities in the region have continued, with Israel and Iran both carrying out strikes, and Bahrain suffering one of its worst days of the war as an Iranian missile struck a military base. With a closer look at another turbulent day, here's our international editor, Jeremy Bowen.
In Tehran, rescue workers from the Red Crescent are at full stretch. The Americans and Israelis can fly virtually unopposed over Iran to drop their bombs. And far from here in Washington, D.C., President Trump says that means the regime is so badly beaten that it's talking to the U.S., desperate for a deal.
And who wouldn't if you were there? Look, their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their communications are gone. That's the biggest problem. It's very hard to communicate them between themselves. All of the anti-aircraft is gone.
But this was Bahrain after an Iranian strike. This war is a clash of arms, ideologies, and messages. Iran's regime is not following Donald Trump's script. It has not collapsed. It's hitting US allies, creating a regional war of attrition to make the most of the missiles and drones it has left. And it's thwarted his assumption that US and Israeli power would guarantee a quick and devastating victory leading to regime change. The focus is now on the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow exit from the Gulf. Iran has effectively blocked it, cutting off 20% of the world's oil and gas supplies. Donald Trump has postponed his threat to destroy Iran's power grid if it wasn't opened, potentially a war crime, now claiming that Iran is offering big concessions.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
One of America and Israel's justifications for the strikes, for going to war, was that Iran was on the point
Man, I know that got to be scary. I don't know how them people do it, man. It's missiles dropping everywhere. I know they have to be terrified
of making a nuclear weapon. But Iran's official position has always been that it doesn't want one. Israel doesn't believe that, but perhaps President Trump is prepared to do so if it helps him find a way out of a war that Iran is trying to turn into America's latest Middle Eastern quagmire. BBC Persian has talked to Iranians who doubt that there's an easy way out.
I don't think that they will negotiate. The Islamic Republic is very much in place right now. If you want to look logically at it, nor them nor the US have reached what they wanted. The ideology of the Islamic Republic is there. Even if war stops, it will start again at some point.
Trump is buying time for himself to take the war to another phase. Maybe a ground.
This is how Iran is feeling, guys. This is from their news channel. I'm just saying, this is how they're feeling about what it is that Trump has going on.
Attack. I don't think that he's going to make a deal with them.
And this is the USS Tripoli, leading the first of 2 US Marine expeditionary units heading for the Gulf. Alongside talk of a deal, the US is sending reinforcements. The Tripoli, coming from Japan, is getting closer. Another of these small but powerful amphibious forces, backed by their own helicopters and strike aircraft, has a long passage ahead from California. And it's expected that the Americans will also send troops from the 82nd Airborne Division. It is looking like a crossroads. If talk of a deal is wishful thinking, the war could escalate.
The United States is now getting closer and closer to the prospect of putting boots on the ground. The president seems to have absolute belief in the ability of U.S. military to deliver results, and he believes that taking over Iranian territory would force the Iranians to open up the Strait of Hormuz.
Even if there was a ceasefire or an agreement tomorrow, what has this done to the region?
This is an absolute catastrophe for the region, and it might come to haunt the U.S. and Israel for years to come.
This was Tyre in South Lebanon. An Israeli offensive against Iran's ally, Hezbollah, is intensifying. Israel has no desire to stop, believing it can finish off its most bitter enemy, Iran's Islamic Republic. And for all America's firepower, its president went to war without a defined objective or a clear exit strategy. Now, as he tries to find one, Donald Trump risks deepening the strategic confusion that Iran's regime is using, not just to survive, but to try to dictate the way this war ends. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News.
Let's go straight to the White House now and to our North America correspondent, Helena Humphrey. Helena, we're hearing such contradictory things. Where do things stand tonight?
Indeed. Well, President Trump was characteristically confident speaking in the Oval Office. He said that negotiations with Iran were already underway. He said that the Iranians wanted a deal and they wanted one badly, despite the fact that previously Tehran had said that no such conversations were taking place. And speaking in the White House, President Trump repeated his previous claim that Iran had agreed to never develop a nuclear weapon. And he also said that there was a big prize destined for the United States related to oil and gas, although he didn't spell out exactly what that was. Nevertheless, the situation on the ground is such that the Strait of Hormuz remains largely blocked. There are US media reports that there could be more US troops sent to the region, including an elite contingent of paratroopers. And certainly we know that the Trump administration has been repeatedly asked as to whether they would send in ground troops, and they have said that they will not discuss battle plans openly and in public. But Iran now says that its only operational nuclear power plant has been struck. And with all of this in mind, those mixed messages, despite that upbeat tone from the president, I think it's fair to say that further escalation is not off the table.
All right, hold up, guys. All right,
Iran's military.
There was some on the troops that are being deployed, guys. Here is where they might go once they get there.
While the talks are continuing through intermediaries, as the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed, and that's got to change. So what could actually change things and maybe put us in control of the strait? Let's take a look at what's on its way. First off, you got two carriers that are coming our direction. You got the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit coming on this ship. About 2,500 Marines are coming. And then you have the USS Tripoli and 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, both coming from Japan. And look at what they contain. They got Ospreys, they got armored vehicles, amphibious assault ships to get them onto shore. Now, where could
I always wondered why we would be telling the enemy what it is exactly that we plan to do and what we have on the way. That always tripped me out. Like, it's like we give them a heads up every time on what it is that we're planning to do. Like, I always thought they were supposed to be like top secret, what's on the boats, you know, what kind of arsenal we're planning to bring over there. But in any situation, have y'all ever noticed that? Like, that's the pros and cons of the news. I just always found that to be crazy. Like, they'll just put it out there exactly what it is that we're trying to do to get it, like they're giving the enemy a heads up or something. I'm just saying.
Heading. Well, if they're going to see some contact, it's going to be right here in the strait. And some of the key islands, you hear a lot about Karg Island, but there's also Kish Island and Hormuz Island, all contain various different, Iranian units. And here's roughly what's in there and what the Iranians seem to have assembled. They got rocket launchers on these islands. They got some submarines there. They got to be destroyed, obviously. Unmanned surface vehicles, heavily armed speedboats. They got to be destroyed. They're the ones causing so much havoc and potential havoc that keeps the Strait of Hormuz pretty much closed. And this is essentially what Kish Island would do if we had control of that, and what would put us in the catbird seat to be able to maybe reopen that strait once and for all and give us the leverage back in that area. And of course, alleviate the glut of oil that just isn't going through. Yesterday,
yeah,
just
let's
3
go.
ships.
It's just
we need
crazy.
About 100 retired lieutenants.
It's like all they got to do is watch the American news and they'll know exactly what's going on. They're like, yeah, okay, the USS Continental. Oh, that's the one with the planes and the ammunition for the troops. Okay, let's go take that out. You know, like it's like almost like, yeah, man, hit this right here, hit that right there, because this contains that contains this, and this contains that. So if we take that out, they won't have any ammunition or you know what I'm saying? Like I just never understood that. That's always been crazy to me.
Keith Kellogg joins us now. He served as former assistant to President Trump and special presidential envoy for Ukraine. General, how would you characterize where we're at right now, and what do you think that our Marines could do when they get into theater?
Yeah, Brian, it's good to be with you. You brought up some really great points there on ground forces. Look, I'm a big believer right now we just need to secure the Strait of Hormuz. And you can do that with 2 amphibious ready groups, Marine ready groups that are headed that way. They're a self-contained unit. They've got aviation assets, they've got helicopter assets, they've got 2,500 Marines on each one of the ARGs, and they can open up the straits out there and occupy that ground. Look, I'm a big believer in putting boots on the ground, not necessarily into Iran, but taking Karg Island and also taking the Strait of Hormuz. Look, we kind of need to do it the way the Romans used to do it. You need to put your legions on the ground to secure the territory and give them confidence that they can do it, that we can open up the strait. Look, I know there's risk involved. There's always risk involved, but those kids, those young men and women, they understand the risk involved on taking both Karg and opening up the Strait of Hormuz as well. So they've got the ability to do it. The amphibious ready groups of the Marines, they can open up the lower half of the strait, do it. And then I'd turn around to maybe the 82nd Airborne Division or Rangers or somebody like that to take Karg Island. I would be able to control the basically the oil outflow of Iran. And then when you start talking to Galibov, who's the name that you hear being mentioned, who's a Speaker of the House of Iran, that gives them more leverage to do it. You basically cut off their economic lifeline. You know, President Trump saw that in 1988 when he mentioned he should take Carg Island. And he's the only president that's had the guts to be able to launch forces into the Gulf region to take control of that. I mean, it controls not us. It controls much of the economies of the Far East and also partially of Europe. And they've got responsibility as well.
So when you talk about risk, you talk about when you take an island, you also become a target. They know where we are at, and they'll know how to get to us, and they could go try to get lucky once. Would you go to that island with missile defense, with some type of drone defense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you take it out. I mean, the risk I'm talking about
do we go with
when
it,
you've got
for
soldiers,
example,
sailors,
General?
airmen, and Marines, you understand that.
But General, do we go with the
say
island
again?
and be able to deploy some type of anti-drone technology and some missile defense? So when we get there, we have some protection.
Oh, absolutely. But you have protection with the ARG itself, with the ships of the ARG that are there. Plus, you have the air support of the ARG, the U.S. Marine Corps that's got there. I have great confidence in our men and women in the military, and especially of the Marine Corps, that they're able to do that job. And I think it's a two-part effort, though. I just don't think you can only open the strait, but you can also go after Carg Island, which is basically the economic lifeline. See, I'm one of those believers that, I know you're talking about boots on the ground and people rub their hands in a negative manner or basically clutch their pearls, but the fact is, over time, over history, the only way you solve a solution is to put boots on the ground and control the environment. You can do certain things from the air, you can do certain things
So
from
it's most definitely looking like we're gonna have boots on the ground, guys. You know, whether we like it or not, boots are most definitely going on the ground.
the sea, but there's time you have to occupy land, like I said earlier, just like the Romans did.
General, I think you agree that we can't leave there with the Iranians thinking, okay, at any moment we can grab the Strait of Hormuz and we'll have ultimate leverage. We've already showed the world that. Somehow they got to be, they have to disassociate themselves with that conclusion. And this is probably the only way to do it, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah, because look, we've lived over 40 years with Revolutionary Guards. They're still going to be in charge out there. And they're an organization and a movement that has subdued the Iranian people over time. And I think they're just going to go back to their roots in 5 years or 10 years out there, just eliminate them. We have to have a different type of government, I believe, get rid of the theocratic government, put the mullahs back in the mosques where they belong, and let some type of government run Iran. It's going. I'm not sure that Galibov is the right person, but he's the one we're going to be talking to, and give President Trump a lot of credit. At least he's willing to talk to him, but he's got that heavy hand of the military right behind him, and he's not afraid to use it.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the
All right, guys, we need 19 more likes to hit 300, guys. If you haven't double tapped that screen, please do so if you're on a mobile device, or click the three dots in the right hand corner and hit that thumbs up. All right, so a lot of questions have been asked, you know, as far as Trump saying that we have already won this battle, and people are saying basically, okay, if we won or we're winning, why do we need to put boots on the ground in Iran? If it's over, it's over. Why would we have to put boots on the ground? Somebody else posed this question. Let's see what they say.
Going to be judged at the end, looking backwards. And
Are we not already at the end? The president keeps saying we're at the end.
No, we're not at the end. I mean,
So you disagree
my
with Trump?
understanding of what he's saying is that they've devastated the military, and that's accurate. It's hard to imagine it isn't. But that doesn't mean it's over. I mean, this is a regime that suffering is a tactic, even for its own people. I will say what's different this time is that their leadership's been successfully targeted. And so they're not just...
Come on, guys. We need 5 more likes to hit 300, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. I wouldn't keep asking you to hit the like button if it didn't help out the channel. It most definitely helps out the channel. Let's get those likes up past 300, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. It is greatly appreciated. Thank y'all for hitting that like button.
Contemplating other people's suffering. They're contemplating their own suffering for the first time. And we can't see from over here what that does to the calculation on that side. Nonetheless, they're human beings like everybody else, And that's going to factor into how this plays out here in the next few weeks.
I'm glad that we got Ken's very charitable interpretation of what Donald Trump is claiming on a daily basis, that we've won. But the reality is, what the president is saying is incongruent with what's happening on the ground, and that's the scary part here. There are two separate conversations that are happening when we're doing these debates. There's a conversation that you guys are having, which is just whatever the administration says on any given day. One day we've won, the next day there's negotiations, the next day we've won again. But there's the actual on-the-ground reality that we are mobilizing thousands of troops to the Middle East. We are asking for $200 billion for this war. And I don't know, what are we getting for this? 86-year-old Khamenei was replaced with his 30-year younger son, who's more radical, more extreme, is purging moderates. Can anyone tell me what we've gotten for this?
Well, I think that one question I would posit here is to you, Scott, and this is what James Mattis had to say, okay? Mad Dog Mattis, right? Very well respected Marine Corps general, former Trump defense secretary. He says this: Iran right now, if we declared victory, they'd say they own the strait. You'd see attacks for every ship that goes through. We're in a tough spot. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't identify a lot of options. I know we've talked here, and I think one of the responses to what you just laid out is that the Iranians have funded bad actors across the region for many decades. Many presidents in both parties have talked about how bad this regime is. But Scott, the challenge is, okay, we've done this. We seem to have underestimated their capabilities with drones, their willingness to dig in, the ways that they've attacked their allies. And now Jim Mattis is saying he can't see a good way out. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, the way out, of course, is for an international coalition to secure the strait. And just in the news today is that the British Royal Navy is on its way. They've decided to engage. I think that's the clear future here, is after you decimate their military, take away their ability to make nuclear weapons, take away their ability to have a ballistic missile program, and defeat their willingness to be an exporter of terror, you have an international coalition that A, monitors these people, and B, secures the strait. And obviously, virtually every country in the world has an interest in the strait being open and secure, and that they don't have a navy or any capability at all to harass these ships going through. So I think that would be the hope. And I think what the president said is true. We have decimated their military capabilities. We've destroyed nearly all of their navy. We've destroyed nearly all of their navy. So one of the pieces here is to get the rest of the world engaged in the strait. I think they're on their way to doing that.
What's really interesting, though, is we know that it's not over, because we don't even clearly understand why we are there in the first place. The mission was never really clear.
Remember, I asked y'all, why do y'all think that we there? Is it for all? Is it because Trump, they tried to take Trump out the game, so basically it's personal for him? It's a lot of reasons why we could be there, and people most definitely pose the question of, why are we there in the first place?
The president said 9 months ago that he obliterated Iran's capabilities to obtain a nuclear weapon. Yet he's deploying thousands of additional troops to the region. It looks like to me, remember he started off saying we were on an excursion in the Middle East. Looks like to me we're in a war and preparing for a ground war with no clear way out. And so the president says there's negotiations going on. Iran says that's not true. And so the American people, nor the troops on the ground, have a clue what the president's mission is, what the way out is. 13 people, U.S. soldiers, have already died. We need a clear mission.
Okay, respectfully, may I ask you a question? Do you believe that Iran has been the world's largest state sponsor of terror for the last nearly 5 years?
The president is the one, Scott, who said 9 months ago that he
asking you a question.
obliterated any capability that they had. So what is the mission now?
I would like to engage in a debate.
I think the president.
I'd like to ask you, we're having a debate, so I'm asking you a question. Do you believe Iran is a state supporter?
Let's go. An explanation for why it's okay to send our sons and daughters into a war.
So
where 13 people have died, you're sending additional ones.
Nobody's yelling right now.
Because you're not prepared for this debate. Let me tell you what the objectives are. Number one, they are the world's largest state supporter and exporter of terrorism. Number two, they have a ballistic missile program, which we found out this past weekend can reach most of Europe. Number three, they lie about
Is
their
Europe
nuclear.
at the table?
They lied about
Is
their.
Europe at the table?
That
Yes.
discovery.
Why wasn't Europe
They lie
included?
about their. They
Why
lie about-
wasn't you? Why weren't our allies
I see
included?
now. I see now
when
why
we
you don't know
made-
the objectives. Because you don't stop
Let
talking
it
long
go.
enough to listen.
Why were
Number three,
our
they
allies
have a navy.
included
They have a navy that
in the
harasses
war,
ships.
in the beginning,
And
in the
number-
discussion, in the strategic
And number
plan,
four,
in
they
the
enrich
operational
uranium
plan.
to 60%.
Why weren't they
Nobody
included?
else
All
does
right,
that.
hold on a second. We've known from the beginning that the Europeans were not included in this. I take your point. We've learned that they have additional capabilities, but also this president has struggled to tell a straight story to the American people about why it is, and his administration has, right? I mean, Marco Rubio was
So I
out
wanna
with an
hear you,
explanation.
Scott, explain why
Well,
he's
hold on. Marco Rubio was out and with initial
I
explanation.
love a great debate,
saying,
guys. This is
well,
a great
we thought
debate.
Israel was going to act, so we needed to do it. Okay, now we have the president today saying that
Penny.
we are having, that he is having conversations with the Iranians and that they gave him a present. And that
I believe
this is
it,
part
Penny.
of why he's encouraged by the state of the negotiations. I would like to play that moment for you, and then we'll see if we can get our conversation a little bit more on the rails around that. Watch.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. It was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. It was oil and gas related, and it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people.
So does anyone sitting here have any idea what he's talking about?
I'm sure Scott does. Please tell us what he's talking about.
None of us do, because none of us are in the room for these negotiations.
Doesn't seem like Trump is either.
You're not.
Trump isn't either.
You're not. And obviously they're talking.
I didn't say I haven't yet. I didn't say that I do.
I want to hop in.
Please explain.
Guess what? None of us are going to be. Now, we will react to it when the news breaks. But to me, if you exit this with an Iran that has a defanged as it relates to missiles, as it relates to an aggressive navy, you take away their ability to make nuclear weapons, and you leave the remnant here unwilling to be a supporter of terrorism, that is an unequivocal win for the United States.
I want to show you the very careful wording Scott is using here. He's saying if that happens, which means that he disagrees with Trump's statement that it already has happened. I cannot believe you invoked an international coalition just 2 minutes ago when Trump already tried that. Trump announced 2 weeks ago he was gathering an international coalition of ships to escort their countries to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Guess what? No countries answered because he spent the past year threatening to invade Greenland. So now,
Matter of fact, he said he didn't need them.
I mean, he said he didn't need them. I was going to get there. Then he comes all the way back around to saying, listen, I didn't break up with her. No, sorry. She didn't break up with me. I broke up with her. I didn't need them in the first place.
You almost had it.
I almost had it.
You screwed it.
I want to ask
You
you,
screwed it up.
do you agree with, yes or no? Do you agree with Trump that this war is won?
I agree that we have devastated
Wait, no,
their
do you agree
military.
that we've won? He said we've won. Yes or no? It's not a hard question.
Well, I mean, if
He's
you
not
consider,
prepared.
if you
Won or not?
if you consider a condition of winning destroying their military capabilities, their missile
We
capabilities.
haven't. Wait, if that's true, why can't the Strait of Hormuz be opened if their military is destroyed? Wait, I want to hear.
Hold on one second. Here is the big picture question I do have here, Scott, is if it is true that we have won, why are we sending the 82nd Airborne?
Thank you.
Let's go.
To be prepared for what happens next.
Why is the strait not open if we've won? If
Yeah,
the
so
military
one of the elements of the discussion is presumably nuclear materials.
Yeah.
And even with bombing last June, nuclear materials don't go away for thousands of years, and that material can just be dug up and reused. So one of the, really, to me, the only reasonable basis to put our folks in Iran is to recover materials after an agreement has been achieved.
Would you support that, putting American boots on the ground to recover
After an
nuclear
agreement
material?
has been achieved to recover materials, yes.
So not as combat troops. You're
Correct.
saying under some
Correct.
sort
Would
of
you support it, Scott?
Well, we cannot exit this, in my opinion, without being able to assure the world that they do not have enriched uranium to the point of and purpose of building a nuclear weapon.
we have to go boots on the
period.
ground.
So that is what we have to exit.
Do you and Ken have a difference of opinion here? I mean, would you support using special operations force, potential paramilitary forces, or potentially regular troops to go get nuclear material if the Iranians didn't want us here, or are you wary of that as a choice?
Well, I'm wary of it, of course. Anytime you have people in harm's way, you have to be leery of it. But I guess I'm not, and none of us here are in a position to know what is the status of the conversations between us and who we're talking with in Iran? Also, what is Israel planning to do? Also, what are we hearing from our partners in the other Gulf states? I think there's a lot of variables that we're frankly not in a position to know enough to answer that question. But yes, of course, anytime American troops are in harm's way, you worry and you pray. And we have the greatest military in the world and we have the greatest troops in the world, but it would be quite dangerous. And hopefully, as Ken said, you would get to a point where they say, Uncle, come get the enriched uranium. And that would be a best case scenario.
I think that people used to.
Yeah, they having a great debate, guys. All right. So if you haven't heard, they're also saying that the Trump administration offers a 15-point ceasefire plan to Iran. Let's find out what this 15-point ceasefire plan is.
All right, you're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. Professor Alon Burstein with me to discuss the latest on the Middle East. Alon has his dynamic map behind him, and he's also got Alon something that I've been tracking closely, and I know you have been tracking closely. That's most definitely what they said. Is this idea of a 15-point plan that's being reported about in several news outlets. Phil Stewart is with Reuters. He says the U.S. has sent Iran a 15-point plan to end the war, and he cites the New York Times. So, Alon, I know you've kind of put together what we're at least seeing from reports about this plan. What do we need to know about it?
So I'm going to put up in back behind me here. This is based off of different leaks. I have to emphasize this. This is not something official. We don't have an official publication of what the 15-point plan is. But different leaks coming from Israeli media, Saudi media, regional media, enough have given us some sort of framework. And if we look at a lot of the different points, the points in red are what they claim the United States is demanding from Iran. So including dismantling all existing nuclear capabilities, assurances that Iran will not strive for nuclear weapons, that there will be no uranium enrichment in Iran, and that all enriched materials will be taken out of Iran. So that's firstly, with regards to the nuclear program, the biggest things there are, first of all, that the only mechanisms that ensure this will actually not happen is...
Shout out to Brenda for that 5. She says, big sidewalk business. I most definitely appreciate it. Thank you for that gift.
Moving the enriched uranium, that is the only tangible thing. The rest of that, assurances that Iran will not strive for nuclear weapons. Shout out to AJ. You know, sort of a gentleman's agreement, right? Iran can violate that, just like the United States and other countries have violated agreements. So the only tangible thing there really is that enriched materials will be handed over to the International Atomic Agency, i.e. removed from Iran. Then we also have that the IAEA, the International Atomic Agency will receive all information. Then all that pertains to the nuclear program. The next thing that it goes to is the relation to proxies, right? One of the 4 things that the United States said it wanted to achieve in this war is that Iran will stop funding and supporting its proxies. That includes Hezbollah first and foremost, and the Houthis, militias in Iraq, and to some extent Hamas. This simply says Iran will abandon its proxies and stop arming and funding them. No explanation about what that means, and I'll get back in a minute to what do we make of the fact these are so amorphous. Then when it comes to the ballistic missile program, there's this issue that future missile Sorry?
Oh, no. I think you're just hearing some ambient audio Alone. Feel free to carry on.
Thought there was a question there. When it comes to the ballistic missile programs, it says that any missile programs will only be developed for self-defense, and that there will be limitations placed on missile programs in the immediate, but the future missile programs will only be for self-defense. And lastly, I'm leaning back to this one, the Straits of Hormuz will remain open, free maritime zone, and never blocked. I'll get in a moment to the 3 things that Iran is supposed to receive. But there's a couple of things to be said about this. First of all, once again, very, very reminiscent to the 20-point plan that ended the war in Gaza, or at least led us to a ceasefire in Gaza. This is a framework. This is not really a plan. This doesn't tell us actually what are the nuts and bolts. Iran will abandon its proxies. Does that mean they'd cut off diplomatic ties? It'll stop funding and arming them. Already now, according to all international treaties and agreements, Iran's not supposed to fund any of those proxies because they're considered terror organizations. There are limitations placed on that. What does that mean? That's a plan. Sorry, that's a framework. That's not necessarily a plan. What is also glaring to me is this issue that there'll be limitations placed on Iran's missile program and that future missiles will only be developed for self-defense. I'm not a military expert, as you know. I don't know the difference between a ballistic missile that's used for self-defense and one that's used for offense. Iran has said that their ballistic missiles now are only being used for self-defense. They were attacked by Israel and the United States, and they're only being used for
No
self-defense.
holy wars, boy. Pandy is vocal
I'm not
down
entirely
there.
sure what that means. That's not to say that this plan has no merit, it doesn't make sense, but it's to say it's still a framework. Now, this is a negotiating framework, but it's still a framework. What is important, though, if you want to expand it to me again for a minute, is the leaks that are coming out also include the three things that Iran would get in exchange for all these things. And that's what I have marked down here in blue. First, all sanctions, all U.S. sanctions on Iran would be lifted. That's huge. Iran is under several different layers of sanctions. Anything to do with the nuclear program, to declaring the Revolutionary Guards as terror organizations, to sanctions with regards to international trade. Lifting all sanctions is a huge carrot, if that in fact would come to the fold. Then also that Iran will receive assistance in civilian nuclear programs in the areas of Bushehr. I did not mention that part of the demands was that Iran would dismantle the sites in Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow.
So if you were wondering what those 15 points of ceasefire are, he's basically breaking it down, with leaks that's been leaked, I guess, to the media or public. He done put them all into perspective, put them up on a board, and basically is reading the 15 points and what they mean to everybody, just so everybody knows what's going on here.
In Bushehr, they'll be able to develop a civilian program. And this, to me, is also one of the biggest things, is this third aspect, no snapback mechanism. That is huge. The snapback mechanism is what was put in place in the deal that Obama made with Iran in 2015 that said that if Iran does not live up to what it was supposed to live up to, then the sanctions would automatically return. And that's essentially what happened. That's what started us down this spiral. The snapback mechanism came into effect. Europe sanctioned Iran in August of last year, and that led us to the crisis of Iran's currency and to the current situation. No snapback mechanism essentially means that there's no automatic return to sanctions if Iran violates this. I imagine that Trump, if this were to be accepted as is, that Trump is thinking, well, if they don't live up to this, we can simply go back to war. We don't need a snapback mechanism. But if the fact that's saying that there's no looming sword hanging over if Iran violates this would be huge. Why am I bringing all this when I'm saying it's all rumors? It's not actually substantiated yet, because this tells us, once again, a framework, not a plan, but a framework for what the United States is demanding. What is very important here, there's no talk. Notice what sent us down the path of the war.
Thank you.
Absolutely no talk about protesters. Absolutely no talk about regime change.
No, that was
absolutely
country.
No talk about not executing protesters or any human rights in Iran. All of that thing that actually started us down the path towards this war. The United States said, stop executing protesters and help's on the way. I combed through the different sites and leaks and reporters in the Middle East to see, is anyone saying that's part of what the United States is demanding? And I could not find it anywhere. It doesn't mean it's not there, but I could not find it anywhere.
We appreciate you putting that together, and time will tell exactly what comes of a possible framework, and maybe we'll learn more as the day goes on about this reported 15-point plan. We've been asking the audience to send in questions alone. Producer Jonah standing by with our first one. Jonah.
Yes, thank you, Austin. Always happy to jump on with you and Alone. We're going to get started here with a question from Mildred in Puerto Rico, who is asking, what is the clear endgame of U.S. involvement with Iran, and how will we know when it's achieved? So going off of what you said, Alone, how many of these 15 points will have to be achieved for us to reach some type of endgame?
So it's a great question, and that is actually one of the things that a lot of people are trying to figure out. One of the things that Trump prides himself on is that he's completely unpredictable. We have no idea if in 5 days after these negotiations take hold, if we're going to have some sort of declaration by Trump, we've achieved victory and that's it, or if we're going to have all of a sudden ground invasion of the island of Karaj. We don't know what is actually going to be. And
he says Trump is unpredictable. Yeah, that's because Trump will say, yeah, we won. And then tomorrow say, yeah, we're going to blow them up till smithereens. Well, if we won, why we need to do that? Yeah, very unpredictable.
One of the things that we have seen repeatedly with this administration, other administrations too, but this administration is almost extreme in that, is that it sets the goalposts for victory after the situation has been settled, after it's been achieved.
Hey,
so
Carly.
If we look at the situation between Israel and Hamas, back in February of 2025, shortly after Trump comes into power, he is talking about the complete expulsion of all Palestinians from Gaza, and the United States will own Gaza and rebuild it. So if that was the plan, it's failed. But then, 10 months later, the plan shifts, and now the plan is for the United States to invest heavily in this international organization.
Let's go, Rika.
Gaza,
Shout out.
have Gaza be for the Palestinians.
Shout out to Rika for being a member for the last 18 months. She says, salute Mahel. Salute to you. Shout out to Rika. Let's go.
For the Palestinians alone, and now it's declared a success. One of the things that Trump does is he often shifts what is going to be the measures of success based on the unfolding map of how wars develop. So similarly here, like I said, the original aim of the mounting of U.S. troops in the Gulf was because Iran was executing protesters, and Trump said help's on the way, and Israel was talking about regime change. Then all of a sudden they started to talk about nuclear deals. Then all of a sudden they added the ballistic missiles. Now it became opening the Straits of Hormuz. How will we know when we reach the end? Essentially, it's going to be when Trump decides that is what I wanted to achieve. That's as far as I'm willing to go. And now we're done. And he'll declare it victory probably no matter what. But it's up to Iran now and the United States to figure out how much of this deal they can maybe accept versus how much the United States is going to let go of its demands and come and back down in order to let the situation resolve itself, or we'll have escalations.
What level of clarity do we have on the type of discussions that U.S. officials and Iranian officials are having with each other? Because we're hearing the White House saying that they're speaking with the Iranians, and then we're hearing the Iranians in so many ways pushing back on that idea. Where is the truth? Is it somewhere in between? I know it oftentimes is with these types of things.
So when Trump pretty much surprised everyone, including a lot of Gulf countries and including Israel, surprised everyone and said there are talks happening with Iran. So then Iran immediately reached out and said, no, absolutely no talks have been had.
No, is what they said.
Within a few hours, it became apparent that there were talks that were being had, and there's all kinds of speculation.
Whoop, did y'all catch what he just said? He said even though Iran said there were no talks going on, he said within a couple of hours it was clear that talks were being had. So who's the liar here? Is it Trump or is it Iran? I'm just saying, according to him, he says that there were talks going on, even though Iran said there were not. So it leads you to believe that, hey, Iran might have been lying to us, guys. I'm just saying. Shout out to that file. She says, great content, Mahia. Thank you. So we most definitely just got word that, hey, there might just be talks that were had. That means Trump wasn't lying. Well, I'll be damned.
Hours, it became apparent that there were talks that were being had, and there's all kinds of speculation if Iran was just not ready to go public, or if this is about disagreements within the Iranian leadership, which right now is very divided. Should we be having talks or should we not be having talks? According to what was leaked in the last 24 hours, the talks already began last week on Thursday. On Thursday, Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, according to reports from today, Abbas Araghchi picked up the phone in an unsecured line, just picked up his cell phone and called Steve Witkoff's cell phone and started talking to him and said something, and this is what I think Witkoff was waiting to hear. Said, I am speaking to you with the authority of the supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. That is the first time that we have heard that something like that has happened. Until now, we have had these amorphous statements from Khamenei.
Thank you, Rika.
We didn't actually know who is calling the shots. And more than that, we didn't know if...
Man, what are you talking about, Fox being my source? Man, we done took information in from multiple news broadcasting stations, man. Stop it, man. Stop with the nonsense.
The various different political forces in Iran, the Revolutionary Guards, the president, the foreign minister, if they're all actually behind the supreme leader or not. The minute the foreign minister calls Witkoff and says, I'm calling you in the name of the supreme leader, according to the reports, Witkoff said, okay, now we can talk. Now I feel like whatever we negotiate, you'll be able to bring back the Supreme Leader, and it can be something that will actually have merit in Iran, as opposed to you'll bring it back, but the Supreme Leader will say, no, I've sided with someone else. So according to reports, that started on Thursday. Then the United States has been talking to different people. There's a lot of rumors that the United States is trying to negotiate with the Speaker of the House of the Iranian parliament. His name is Mohammad Bakir Khalibaf. The reasons for that are unknown.
So he kind of touched on the phone call that Trump said that he received. He said, I didn't call them, they called me. And he just basically talked about what was said on that phone call.
Some say that he's a more moderate figure. Others say that he's just someone new. So it's not just the same negotiations that happened before, but the United States wants to present someone new. But there's enough rumors. Trump keeps on saying we're talking to a top man there, but not to the Supreme Leader. There's all kinds of rumors that they're talking to this Mohammad Khalibaf. If that is the case, it doesn't mean a lot in terms of where the negotiations are going. But what that does mean is that the United States is actually scrambling to find who to talk to, because if Khamenei can't be reached, and if they weren't sure they wanted to talk to the foreign minister, they were scrambling to find someone. They found him. So far, it seems to be bearing fruit. I'm not going to get into the present that Trump said that he received, because he said that means we're talking to the right people. I don't know what that present is, but it does mean that there's that they're bearing some fruit with regards to they found who to communicate with. The United States is satisfied, at least, that so far they can have an open channel of communication with whoever they're talking to in Iran.
Yeah, Reuters with this saying President Trump says Iran gave a significant prize. When asked by reporters what he was talking about, he said it was related to the Strait of Hormuz. Jonah, I believe, has another audience question.
Yes, we always love to get to these viewer-submitted questions, this time from Ivan in Philadelphia. We do know that President Trump gave this 48-hour deadline to Iran over the week.
I get my information from wherever I find it at. You know what I'm saying? Where do you get your information from, since you asking me questions?
Ivan is asking, what was the outcome, and are we following through with any of these threats?
So that is really what led us to where we are now. Trump gave this 48-hour deadline, and what the deadline said was that Iran has to open the Straits of Hormuz, or that the United States would start bombing Iran's power plants and its resource infrastructure. Iran did not back down. In turn, Iran published maps showing how their missiles can reach the different areas of the Gulf countries. If you want to expand the map, about what they showed. They showed how their missiles can actually reach the power plant infrastructure and resources in Saudi Arabia, and in Qatar, and in Bahrain, and in the United Arab Emirates, and in Kuwait. And they said, if our power plants and resources are bombed, FYI, these will be bombed. That would be a massive escalation, because it would do two things. Number one, it would shut down the oil production capabilities of those countries. Right now, it's limited. Strikes on their power plants would shut it down. And the second thing is that would be a scorched earth policy. Once that is, that's the nuclear option without nuclear weapons. Iran said they would do that. This is still within the 48-hour limit. All of a sudden, Trump comes out and gives this statement saying we're negotiating, and it's going to be now 5 days of negotiations. So many in the United States have said Trump gave an ultimatum. Iran didn't back down, but actually they were willing to enter negotiations, so the ultimatum was successful. Iran, in turn, is saying Trump gave an ultimatum, we didn't back down, the United States got scared, and then all of a sudden had to say, let's negotiate for 5 days. So obviously different narratives over what happened, but the 48-hour ultimatum was very significant, no matter how you slice it, because it led the sides to the point of either the nuclear option, all-out war, or going to this path of negotiation that, at least for now, they say they're going to.
So one more thing before we go here. A live look at Tel Aviv. The time in Israel is 3:40 in the morning, just about, as we record this. Alone, I think I heard of a number of missiles that were heading toward Israel today. I think it happened a number of times. Can you give us just a bit of a refresher on what you're seeing on your map? I know in Israel proper, we don't see a whole lot of those dots, but in general, what have you been tracking, whether it be in Israel, whether it be on the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be in Lebanon? What's worth looking at geographically tonight?
So the big things that are worth looking at when it comes to looking at this map, I'm going to try to move it here a little bit, although it doesn't always work with this TV. I had trouble with it yesterday. The big things that are worth looking at are, first of all, where the cluster of red lights are. That is where there are strikes by Israel and the United States against Iran or against...
He got it all mapped out, guys.
So what we're seeing is this cluster on the western side of Iran is really where Israel has been striking. That's where a lot of nuclear facilities are. That's Natanz. All of these dots is Natanz. That's Fordo. All of these dots over here. And in turn, these other dots in Iraq are against the militias. Now, what are the yellow squares? The yellow squares are Iranian retaliations. Those are Iranian either missiles or drones. And we can see where they have retaliated. They have fired, like Austin said, this is misleading because this is a map coming out of Israel. And in Israel, it is not legal.
One thing that I will take that he said is that Iran did not back down. Ever since they've been getting attacked, they've most definitely been attacking, guys. It's crazy, man. Now we're about to have troops on the ground, man. Prayers for the troops that's being sent to Iran.
To publicize where there are strikes. And so there's just one dot in Israel, even though there's been 850 missiles plus fired towards Israel. But what we're seeing is that there are these strikes that happen in Cyprus, Turkey, but the real cluster is the Gulf. This is how Iran is trying to hurt the United States by hurting the world's economy and hurting the allies of the United States, and specifically the oil. The country that has suffered the most from Iran's attacks is the United Arab Emirates. That's what we can see over here. It's this area in the Straits of Hormuz right here. These are attacks that happen against ships, and these are all the drones and missiles at the United Arab Emirates. Then over here we have attacks at Qatar, and over here attacks at Bahrain. So really what we're seeing is, if you were asking about what's worth looking at the map, what's interesting is we're actually not seeing...
We're 20 likes away, guys, from 400. Can we get 20 more people who haven't double tapped their screen? That's how you hit the like button if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up. It most definitely helps out the channel. Can we get 20 more of y'all to hit that like button to put us at 400 on the like? Shout out to everybody that's already hit the like button.
Growing dispersion of the attacks. We're not seeing growing dispersion of the retaliations. What we're seeing is just doubling down, more and more pounding into the same places in Tehran, and in turn, Iran pounding more and more the same places. Seemingly, both sides have found the weak points of the other side, and rather than trying to expand the attacks into other types of things, they're just re-attacking the same types of thing again and again. It's not the same targets, but it's the same port cities in the United Arab Emirates, or it's the same type of military factories in Tehran. It's again and again doing the same things. Basically right now it's a war of attrition between the missiles and drones that Iran is firing and the bombings of Israel and the United States. Basically, it's which side is going to outlive the other one. Neither one is trying to go for an all-out blow at a victory. Everyone's just waiting. Some had said that Israel was waiting for protesters in Iran to take to the streets. Now, that hasn't happened, and Israel's now changing the story a little bit, saying that may happen, that may take a year until that happens. And then Trump was waiting for the opening of the Straits of Hormuz. But right now, it's just a war of attrition between that. We see more of these dots coming up, but they're all in the same places. That's really what we're seeing with this interactive map.
There's a lot of questions about who, as you mentioned, who within Iran's leadership are U.S. officials speaking to. I believe President Trump has also talked about the condition of the Supreme Leader. We've heard Secretary Hegseth talking about the condition of the new Supreme Leader as well. Jonah, I believe, has a question about this from an audience member.
Yes, Austin, I think we have one more viewer submitted question. We always love to get them from our viewers, and we only have so much time for them. But this one from John, who is asking, have there been any signs of life from the new Supreme Leader of Iran?
Now remember, they were most definitely saying that they believe that he may have been taken out, the new Supreme Leader, the son of the old Supreme Leader that Trump took out. They believe that he may have been taken out because they haven't seen or really heard anything from him, since then. So people are asking, is he alive or is he deceased? Well, we don't know. Some people believe he's alive and some people believe he may be deceased. And they also threw allegations out that he might be G-A-Y. I'm just saying.
A great question. No, there are not. We have so far had 2 written statements that have been read out in the news, in Iranian official news from the supreme leader. We have a lot of testimony from different officials that have said that they have seen him. Unclear if they've seen him in person or seen him virtually. I will say that according to most intelligence estimates in Israel and the United States, that Mujtaba Khamenei is alive. He is alive and he was injured in his leg and in his hand, but not critically injured. So there are, according to, again, most estimates, a couple of reasons why he's not being seen in public.
Thank you, AJ.
One is it is possible he's injured in his leg, and Iran does not want the first image of the supreme leader to be in a wheelchair or with a cane or something like that. The supreme leader is supposed to be a symbol of strength, supposed to be strong, powerful, standing tall. One reason. Second reason is fear for his life. Very, very obviously, Israel would be interested in assassinating him. Israel tried to assassinate as many of the top leadership as it has been able to. I will say, speculating that now Trump, during the negotiations, may tell Israel not to do that. However, clearly, Mujtaba Khamenei would be very fearful. There is a third reason that I will say could also be influencing, and that is an aura. An aura.
So he basically just said that the new supreme leader is alive, but has been injured in his leg and in his hand.
Mystery. We had the situation where the aging supreme leader was in control of the country, but the country was spiraling out.
Shout out to Penny for that 100, man. Hey, man, there's nothing like support. Shout out to you, Penny. Thank you. She says 328, no kings. Let me know if you need location. Oh my goodness. Oh, leave Penny alone. She put a whole hundo on the screen, man. Shout out to Penny for that 100. Most definitely appreciate that, man.
In protests, people were angry. Now he has been assassinated. No one's disputing that. And the Revolutionary Guards have taken control of the streets, and the Basij also. Very few are disputing that. But the supreme leader is almost now this amorphous figure. This figure that's calling the shots from behind the scenes, but not actually seen, probably because he's also injured. They don't want him to be seen injured, probably out of fear for his life. But I would speculate also it's not damaging Iran to have this mysterious aura of the all-powerful supreme leader behind the scenes calling the shots. It's contributing to the confusion of all of the regime's rivals at this point, which are both Israel and the United States and the Iranian public. The Iranian public also doesn't know if to take to the streets or not.
All right, so let's get Rodney right up out of here. Why would I let you in my chat? Why are you viewing what I got going on if you think I need a job? I tell you what, you get to work at your job and get off of my channel. Congratulations, sir. You just got deported. We'll holler at you. Hasta la vista, baby. We'll see you later, Rodney. Yeah, have fun on your trip from where you shall not return. Goodbye.
Confusion among the leadership, or are they all behind the supreme leader? Keeping people in confusion is a good strategy when you are fighting for your life in danger. I think that's also one of the reasons that they're very satisfied to keep him mysteriously absent at this point.
Something worth tracking as the weeks go by. Alone, where can people find your coverage and your courses?
So look me up in the Israel-Palestine report on YouTube. That's where I upload all my summaries. I just uploaded one yesterday analyzing this negotiation. And I will say also, if you're interested specifically in Iran and what's going on with that, check out.
Most definitely got deported on the Iranian rocket, John. Right up out of here. We'll holler at him. You know what I'm saying? We'll see you later. Hasta la vista, baby.
Website, alonburstein.com/courses. And this coming Sunday, I have a webinar that you can sign up to about the history of Iran, looking at its history, its politics, and its revolutions, and how these revolutions keep on happening, and the changes of regime change. Anyone's interested, feel free to sign up on my website.
Appreciate you, Alon.
All right, guys. So he basically broke down, the 15-point strategy. He also talked about the supreme leader basically being alive and having an injury to his leg and hand. He also broke down, what could potentially be the strategy of Iran against America, guys. We also found out that Trump says that there were negotiations going on, into which Iran replied that was a lie. This guy right here most definitely said that there were negotiations going on. I think he even named the person that contacted Trump, just like Trump said. So whether you believe Trump is lying or telling the truth, you know, is completely up to you. But according to him, there were a lot of things that Trump said that were factual, guys. We are most definitely looking to have U.S. troops stationed in Iran, meaning basically there will be U.S. troops, boots on the ground in Iran. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's looking like it's going to be an all-out, you know, war situation. A lot of people say that, what war? What war are you speaking of? There's no war. But on pretty much every video I have shown, they have most definitely called this conflict a war, you know. So I think it's safe to say that we are at war with Iran. There is a possibility that Saudi Arabia may be joining in to this situation, seeing that Iran keeps dropping missiles on places over there in Saudi Arabia to basically get back at the United States. I'm just saying, man, you know, we went through everything in the title. I most definitely took y'all down through there and gave y'all each perspective as I could find as of what's going on right now when it comes to Iran. You know, we are in what, day 25 of this whole situation. It seems to be no end in sight. Trump doesn't have a predicted end to all of this, you know, so this could be an ongoing situation that is not resolved anytime soon, guys. We'll most definitely keep our eyes on everything going on and most definitely bring you everything that we can find, you know, when it comes to this situation and any other situation that's breaking news. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I most definitely enjoyed y'all. If you have not, double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you are new. We hit 62K subscribers. Shout out to everybody that subscribed. We most definitely plan to keep climbing in numbers. I most definitely appreciate all of y'all, you know, and the support that y'all give. Shout out to Penny for that 100 she put on the screen, as well as the people that sent in the 5. That's most definitely appreciated as well. If you would like to grab a membership to the channel to support any even more, you can simply go to any video on this channel. Look in the description box. Is most definitely a link to become a member to the channel. You know, we appreciate any piece of support that we can most definitely get, man. Shout out to the new subscribers as well as the old subscribers. Shout out to all of my members, the new ones as well as the old ones. Shout out to my moderators, you know, for all that y'all do. Y'all most definitely keep this chat running smooth, and I most definitely appreciate y'all as well. And with that being said, man, y'all have a great day out there. Stay safe, and like I always say, Sidewalk Gang, checking out. Turn your notification bell on to all so that you don't miss nothing when everything news goes live, because we'll most definitely keep you informed with everything going on. I'm gone, y'all. Y'all be safe. I'll catch y'all later. Penny, I'll probably catch y'all on the other side. Shout out to Country James for the gifts. Most definitely shout out to anybody that sent a super chat, a super sticker, or a gift. You know, those most definitely are appreciated as well. I'm out of here, guys. Y'all have a great day. Thank you, Country James. Oh, well, I thought I was out of here. If I can get to the end button, we'll most definitely be out of here.